Hi, everybody. Welcome to Coach Menachem on this beautiful Sunday night, summer. Tonight is Shir 242, and we're very thankful that everybody's here tonight. I know a lot of people traveling, a lot of people with the family. So whoever's here, we really appreciate it. Again, I want to start off every week thanking everybody that joins and, telling people about it, family, friends, posting your status. It's very important. Like I say, every shir, not every shir is for everybody, but you never know who can help by watching. So spread the word. It's a sichas chaverim, a place to speak, talk. Menachem, just admit. If anyone wants to join the WhatsApp chats, please WhatsApp me at 732-314-1710. That's 732-314-1710. I'll send you the link for the community chats. I'll post it here as well. You could also go to menachembernfeld.com and sign up for the weekly emails of the shiurim and the replays and all the amazing stuff. For all the people that are watching this video on YouTube, you can click on the subscribe button and also click on the like button so many people can get to see it. And every time Menachem posts a video, after every share, it gets uploaded. Thank you to all the advertising sponsors, the Lakewood Scoop here in Lakewood, Ellie and Era from Five Central, Chayla Kaufman from JCN, for always posting us on all the digital Jewish platforms. The Coach Menachem show is sponsored by OKClarity.com. OKClarity.com is the largest mental health and wellness directory for the global Jewish world, the only place any Yid to find an amazing therapist, psychiatrist, provider, nutritionist, or coach. And yes, even Coach Menachem Bernfeld. OKClarity has an amazing WhatsApp status with over 10,000 obsessed followers. The WhatsApp status is great for your mental health and a lot of humor as well. We'll post the links, and Menachem will send out an email as well. For anybody who's here the first time, I don't know where you've been. We're almost in we're in the middle of our sixth year. Every Sunday night, this time, we have an amazing cheer. We have Rabbanim, therapy. We've had it all. So please join us every Sunday night at 9 o'clock. Be part of the Sichas Chaverim. So it's a good place to be. And next week, Menachem, August 31st, the guest speaker will be Coach Menachem is making a wedding. And we're very lucky to be part of it. And we try not to make the weddings on Sunday. It's one of the things we made up, but there's two sides to every shidduch, and that's the way sometimes it works out. So August 31st, Menachem, the shir will be,
everybody's invited.
Telepathic. And Hashem will see everybody September 7th. We have an amazing lineup before Yom Tov, and Hashem, hopefully this Yom Tov, we're going to have a lot of powerful shiurim to really get us into feeling Kedusha. Tonight's Gematria is 242, and we're going to see why Rabbi Doniel Katz comes on Gematria 242. Here we go.
I want to know.
Shalom Aleichem. First of all, I'd like to believe that tonight's shir is Lili Nishmas, my mother, whose yahrzeit is on Thursday, Daled Elul, Chai Elei Basar David, and also Lili Nishmas, my wife's grandmother, whose yahrzeit is tonight, Chana Basar Yeshua Chaim. Shalom Aleichem, everyone, to Zoom shir number 242. How Transformational Torah is changing the Jewish world. Breathwork, trauma modalities, meditation, and the return of prophecy. I believe before one changes, he has to have a clear picture of what the change is going to be, and what are the pros and what are the cons, which leads us up to tonight's gematria of 242 equals B'deya Tzulula, with a clear mindset.
Very nice.
Okay, we're going to turn over to Coach Menachem. Same question we ask every Sunday night. Why are we here Sunday night at 9 o'clock? There's so many other things to do. What are we trying to accomplish tonight?
Yeah, shkoyach about Noach for the gematria, and I want to welcome everyone to another Let's Get Real with Coach Menachem. And it's every time Rabbi Doniel Katz comes on, there's a lot of excitement. I get messages, and the Olam is ready. So I'm looking forward to Mitzvah Hashem. So tonight, interesting topic as usual, especially when now Chodesh Elul. We all get together, once a week, try to figure out learning, healing, ultimately becoming close to Hashem, because that's ultimately the goal. That's what we're looking for. And Baruch Hashem, we've been doing a lot of healing, a lot of growing, and thank you everyone for the feedback. I can see it on myself and the chevra we talk to. It's doing something. Getting together, discussing different topics, whether it's shalom bayis, personal growth, or chinuch. At the end of the day, sitting and discussing something that doesn't work. For me, it does. For why it doesn't. So that's amazing. Then you have those who, it's a journey, it's a process. Sometimes we feel like we're going uphill, and then we hit a wall, a rock. Sometimes we feel we fall downhill, up and down. Many times we get inspired. We get inspiration. We feel like, oh, I got the answer. Finally, clarity. We feel it's a good feeling. It takes us for a few days, and then we're back in a place where we're trying to think, what was that clarity that we had? And we don't even know how to tap into it again. And that can be very hard. Many people stop. They're like, okay, I've been doing this for years. I thought I'm healing. I thought I'm going to get there, but it's just not working. They can, from the outside, they might be continuing, but in the inside, you lost them. They're lost. I think it's anytime we're on this journey, it's important to understand that you might find yourself in those places. You might find yourself in a place where you're thinking, all the work I've done in the past, where has it gone? And to hold on, if you have a friend, someone you can talk to, just to speak it out, just to get, sometimes it takes a few days, part of the healings, to be in a place where you think, it's just not working. And then you have these different modalities, which we're going to be discussing tonight. And people try it. Some people feel like, oh, this changed my life, changed the world. Others try it out and are not sure if it's working, not working, not sure what they're looking for. But even those that feel like it does work, after a while, they're like, why am I just not getting there? I'm doing this already for years. Yes, I need to heal. There's so many things, but I'm doing the work. And I feel like I'm getting somewhere, but how long does it take? When am I going to get there? And the real question is, what is there? Where do we want to get to? Have I ever experienced it? Is it something that I don't even know what it is? It might be something in my mind, but I don't know what it is. So I think tonight we're going to go there a little bit. First of all, just to understand, what am I looking for? What is it? And then how can I get there if I've never experienced it? And I think the word is experiential. Logically, we can be discussing, talking, and whether it's a Emunah B'Tachon, learning, growing, but then we're not sure. What is it all about? What am I looking for? Never felt it, never been there. So I'm excited, Menachem. Thank you, Rabbi Katz, for being with us tonight. Help us to clarify. And we've had you in the past, and the modalities, I know many people share, they tried it, and it's amazing. Others tried it, and they're not sure what they're looking for. I think it's a time and a place to have a discussion to see what are we looking for, how do we get there, and what's the mahalach, what's the derech. And before we start, I know there's always that question of when you put the word Torah into these concepts, we get a little bit scared, because if you tell me it's coming from the Goyim, okay, it's at least from the Goyim, but you tell me it's coming from the Torah, where? I didn't see it by my grandparents. I don't find it in the Chumash. I don't find it in the Gemara. So we get a little bit confused. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of clarity, have an open mind to listen, to see what's going on, and what's the resistance to it, if we have. So we should have a lot of siyata d'shmayim, it's Hashem, and Hashem should help. We should become closer to Him, chodesh Elul, closer to Hashem through love, understanding what Emunah B'Tachon is, how can we connect to Him and trust in Him, rely on Him. Thank you, thank you.
Coach Menachem, beautiful opening. Okay, let's get into it. Tonight's share of Doniel Katz, 242. Title: How transform? How do you say that, Menachem?
Transformative, transformation. Which word do you want?
Torah is changing the Jewish world. Breathwork, trauma modalities, meditation, the return of the prophecy, Torah and experience. Rabbi Doniel Katz's bio: visionary, educated, international sought-after speaker. Rabbi Doniel Katz is creative force behind the Elevation Project. For more than a decade, Rabbi Doniel open and compassionate teaching has been catalyst for some changes in lives of thousands of people worldwide. Born and raised in Australia, Rabbi Doniel abandoned his award-winning film career, theater, in the mid-20s after a year of intensive spiritual awakening, exploring many wisdom paths and traditions in search for a deeper clarity to explain his experiences. He was finally led to Jerusalem in 2000. Since then, he's nearly spent 2 decades immersed in the world of Torah and Kabbalah teachers, learning some of the city's greatest rabbis and spiritual masters. Rabbi Doniel has lectured extensively around the world for the last 10 years plus. During the time, he also has facilitated member of the Neve Yerushalayim Eish Torah in Jerusalem. In addition, spoke at the 2015 Symposium on Science and Meditation Tools of the Abrahamic Traditions at the Mind and Life Institute. Yeah, I said that wrong. In Massachusetts, was invited by the Chief Rabbi of South Africa to speak at the Sinai in Daba conference in Johannesburg and Cape Town, during which over 5,000 people attended his elevation sessions and presented the 2006 Wisdom 2.0 conference in Tel Aviv. Rabbi Doniel Katz is much longer in the bio, but we want to get to the point. So thank you for coming on for the fourth time.
This is the fourth time. Somebody asked me today, how many times you've been there? It's like a lot. I've lost count. Fourth time, Baruch Hashem.
Now you have to start paying membership.
I'm happy, B'simcha Rab. It's a good chabur to be a part of. Shalom Aleichem, Cheva. Thank you, Reb Asha. Thank you, Reb Coach. And Menachem, good to see you all today. Shalom Abasai. So, there's something I want to say today. When I come on here, I feel like this, it's a good cheva and it's a real cheva. So we have to say real things. What are the things that need to be said? What are the things that we have to explore together? So I want to speak to something which is very, very deep in my heart, very personal to me. This is a very personal subject, very lamaisa. And I know one of the things of chinuch is to, it's not just to talk about Torah in a stam way. Here's a devar Torah, as beautiful as that is. It's that there's things that are happening in our world that we need to speak about. There's things that are happening in the film world that we need to speak about. There's things that people are suffering with that we need to speak about. There's things that are happening for Jews all around the world today that we need to speak about. And I want to speak about a certain phenomena that I see frequently, a struggle for a lot of Jews around the world, and especially Torah Jews today. And I want to name the thing. And I'm going to name the thing. The thing I want to call is the challenge of transformational Torah. I feel there's a kind of Torah which people are really yearning for, really hungry for, that they can't get within. I don't even know what these words mean. The system of the Olam of Torah, whatever these words mean. We're not speaking against the system. We understand, Baruch Hashem, we have strong Surah today, but there's something that many from Yidden have a she'ifa for, a deep yearning, and the whole Yiddishkeit is dependent on this thing. And if they can't get it, then they blow out in all kinds of different ways. We can talk about the more difficult parts of that. We can talk about the hatzlach of that. So I want to begin with a quote from a Kabbalistic text. I don't know, can we speak Kabbalah here? I don't know how deep we're allowed to go. This is a very mystical text. It's called Aleinu L'Shabeach. Perhaps you've heard that. I don't know if you say that in your siddur. And we say this, V'yadata hayom v'hashevas ha'elav. We should know this day and we should take it to our heart. It's masha from this. There's two parts of our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's two parts of our connection to Torah. One is the knowledge, the das, the seichel. But then there's this other avoda, v'hashevas ha'elav. We have to return it to our heart, which is its own. The pasuk is separating between one to another. And anyone that's ever learned Yisrael Salanta and the Derech of Musa, anyone that's learned Chassidus and the Avodah Shebelev, we know that for sure, just because we know something in our cycle, with Yisrael Salanta, the founder of the Musa movement, it was unbelievable. He said not only what a radical thinker, not only should we have a base midrash, a place where people go to learn Torah, he says in every town we should have a base Musa, a place where you go, sit each day, maybe for an hour each day, and you only work on Tikkun HaMidos. You only work on V'hashevas ha'elav. What a radical statement. There's places where people start up today, a meditation place in a certain city. I know a nice guy that started one in Los Angeles recently. He said, this is a place you come to work through your feelings, your trauma, to meditate, to have some yeshiva das, some mindfulness. So Yisrael Salanta was already into this hundreds of years ago. We know, Kol HaKavod. So we can always say, we were into it, but Lamaisa, we don't do it. So I'm not here to complain about anything, but I want to name something. I want to name a challenge. And the challenge is this. There are countless Sfarim from Yisrael Salanta, from the Vilna Gaon, I'm starting on one side of the track, and in Ever Shalema, that say Meforish, that the Tachlis of Chaim and the Tachlis of Torah is Tikkun HaMidos. That we're supposed to work through our emotional issues and our blocks to bring Hashem not just into our mind and into our heart, We've all learned Mesilas Yesharim from the Ramchal, and countless sworn by the Ramchal speak to this. All of Chassidus speaks to this point. Rachmana liba boy, says the Gemara, that we can't live with our trauma and have Amunah. We can't live with our atzvus, agmas nefesh, our kas, our anger. The goal is to bring the whole lave, the shlemus alev, the shlemus of das, the whole of the consciousness to Torah. So we heard about this in yeshiva, but lamaisa, most of us are never ever taught in our seminaries and yeshivas how to do this. How do I do this, lamaisa? How do I work through the stuff? How do I work my resistance, my fear, my anger, my lust, my pain? And I not to complain, but many of us know that learned in yeshiva. That many people tell me there's no Musa Sadal. We never learn practical skill sets. We all know that's true. Lamaisa, what about Musa? Yes, everybody knows that they've been in a yeshiva where the last 20 minutes of day, when everyone's most exhausted and most finished, and everyone's already smelling the wafts coming up from dinner downstairs. Now we'll open the Mesilas Yesharim and we'll learn a shtickle and a shtickle Musa, whatever that means. If you say, but I like to learn Chassidus, learning Chassidus is not the same as doing the Chassidus. Even the Baal Shem Tov will be first to say that. Rabbi Menachem the Balatanya. Tanya itself is a whole sefer of his bunadus, of how to do the mahalach of meditation. They're all very stark and say learning about it is not the same. It's a different mahalach. But nobody teaches us how to do it. So when you have a whole generation that are yearning for this. So first of all, I want to talk about the challenge. We're going to name something. Number one, there's a whole generation that more than ever, either because we're so broken and so low that we really need these skill sets and people are going to the four corners of the world to learn them. One. So is it we're so low? Okay, fine. Worth exploring. Number one. Number two is that where our hearts are open, we have a sensitivity to want this more than ever. Number two is we can't get this. It's not in the oilam of Torah. Now today we're starting to see it come in, but that's what we're talking about, Transformational Torah. So where do you go? So you go to IFS, you go to EFT, you go to some meditation retreat, and this is the next step is thousands and thousands of yidden. I'm not saying this is good or bad. This is just an is thing, as we say. They go learn IFS. There's retreats in Muncie and in Borough Park and in Flatbush and all around the world, in Yerushalayim Mamish, of Yidden sitting together doing breath work, learning these non-Jewish sources of breath work. Or IFS is very popular today with frum therapists, SE, somatic experiencing, EMDR, EFT, the tapping is so many people are teaching tapping today, energy healing, hands-on healing, right? Meditation. There's so many. We're releasing a part of the Elevation project, the Elevation meditation app. It's coming out in a few weeks, and lo and behold, right when we're about to release it, there's a plethora of Jewish meditations coming up. But most of them are teaching they're teaching secular mindfulness or mindful-based stress reduction or Buddhist techniques now in an app. So this is coming. Right, we've got landmark forum. 10, 15 years ago, I was at a certain yeshiva that was Baruch Hashem into Kiruv, and they started to think maybe transformation is important. We should be teaching transformation. So they sent some of the rabbis out to go to landmark forums to learn. They invited me to do it, to go and learn landmark and then come back and teach in a Jewish context. And I remember being a little upset at the time. I remember saying, I'm a Baal Tshuva. I came back to Torah mitzvahs. Why are you sending me to goyish things to learn? If I have Chassidus, I have the Baal Shem Tov, and I have Ramchal, and I have Yisro Salanta, and the answer, they just didn't have a masorah of how to do it that way. I found that very fascinating. I was told 15 years ago that Landmark Forum had so many Frum Yidden come to each seminar, each retreat, that they had entire minyanim that they made Kiddush on Friday night together. And that was, I hear this at Joe Dispenza, I hear that today at Tony Robbins. Today there were so many Frum Yidden that I meet into Wim Hof. If you don't know who Wim Hof is, kol hakavod to you, chazak, v'ametz. Right, Wim Hof, and he teaches breath work, and he teaches go in the cold water and freeze yourself, and it boosts the immune system, and it resets the nervous system, and it's gavaldic. And I know many from people who say that avoida every single day has changed their life. They're not aware that Rabbi Nachman and the Baal Shem Tov went in cold mikvahs every day, and then they never thought about that in that way. It's an interesting reset, right? So I'm not going to tell my Torah story about Torah Masorah right now. We'll get to that, Coach Menachem, soon. But what we see is either because we're so broken or because our neshamas are so big. And I'll tell you what the tzaddikim say soon about this. We want to do a shevasa el vavecha, and we can't because we don't have an access, and therefore we blow out. And some people blow out by losing a connection to Torah mitzvahs, and some people are mavakshim. And I've spoken to and connected to literally thousands of yidden over the last decade plus who are oisik in these sugyas, Gewaldig, kol hakavod to them. And then the third is, now it gets more complex. They feel that the most exciting part of their tikkun amidas that gives them the most chayas, the most energy, the most love, how they help the most people is these secular sources. And that creates a lot of complexity. First of all, there's people like, I don't want to do it, it's not connected to Torah, but then they don't have a real mahalach for that trauma, for that inner work, for that simchas chayim, to really mitakan what needs to be mitukan for the sake of their emunah. And then therefore they grab these secular sources and it creates a lot of division. I don't want to go into now the politics of Israel is the worst right now, but there's some of the greatest leaders of secular transformation. Offer them, many of them are Jews, not all. Like Bessel van der Kolk, Gabor Mate, Wim Hof, I want to call him Wim Hof, Tara Brach, a lot of these people, that a lot of Yidden and a lot of Frum Yidden and a lot of Frum therapists see as their mentors, idols, who learn from them, who are yearning from them, who go to the retreats, who study their works, have come out viciously, some of them, not just anti-Israel, but sounding very strongly like anti-Semitic. And that leaves people that I speak to very, very upset and very confronted, because these are people we were really looking for. And this is when it gets interesting. You're looking for what? They're teaching a skill set. No, these are our models of tikkun amidas. These are our models of inner work. And because we're yoinik, we've wandered far from our source, as Rav Kook says, and we're yoinik from sources that aren't our own, but they're giving us something important. They're giving us something groundbreaking and essential for Klal Yisrael, essential for the frum world and Klal Yisrael. And then suddenly they turn against us. That leaves us kind of wondering, so who are we supposed to learn from? Where are we supposed to get it? I've had many, many messages this week as some of those things blew up. Where are we supposed to get this from? So, and there's always this line, Rabbi Sai, there's always this line that I hear a lot. Surely it's all in Torah. Surely we don't need to get these secular ideas. Surely it's all in Torah. There's once I was staying in London, lecturing there by Or Sameach, there was a wonderful mishpacha I was saying, a very eloquent mishpacha, and that there was I don't want to say what it is, there's a certain personal development mahalach approach that was very big in London. When I say very big in London, I mean like a meditation technique. And I mean, hundreds of frum people. There's a friend of my time was running it. Hundreds frum people would go and sit there and learn this technique. And a friend of mine was running it. A Kiev organization was setting it up. Then I was a bit surprised. I was like, if you're teaching Kiev, why are you teaching this technique? They said, this really helps people. I was like, I understand that, but if we don't have that from Torah, what are we carving people to? Torah mitzvahs by itself, without tikkun amidas, without das, without devekas, it doesn't lead to a healthier lifestyle. And if we have to use non-Jewish sources, what are we trying to co-opt a person into, if you will? And then the Rebbetzin said, surely, I remember saying this, surely, Rabbi Katz, we don't need to go there. Because she thought it was also a Chil Hashem. And she said, surely, Rabbi Katz, we don't need to go there. And I remember saying, like, surely everything's in Torah. Surely this is in Torah too. Now, I felt what she felt. But when she said it, there was a chap that came up into my mind. She's a wonderful woman. The chap that came up in my mind is, everything is in Torah. Turn it over, everything is there. But I said to her, if chas v'chalila, your kid has a trauma, if chas v'chalila, kid goes off the derech. This is what she said. She said, surely everything's in Pirkei Avos, right? Surely we don't have to go learn those things. Everything's in Pirkei Avos. So I said to her, if your chas v'chalila, your kid has trauma, if chas v'chalila, your kid is going off the derech, you don't tell them to read Pirkei Avos. If someone's having a mental health issue, I understand everything is in the Mishnah, 100%. But it's useless to tell them to open up Pirkei Avos. It's too little too late, as we used to say back in the day. And what I said to her is, if your kid is having mental health issues, you send them to a halacha, the best therapist, the best psychiatrist, the best mental health expert. You send them. I don't know if this group fit into that category, but the answer is, even though we say everything is in Torah, because everything is in Torah, and I'm not questioning that, so listen, because I'm going to say something deep today. At the end of the day, there's kalim, there's a sophisticated skill set that we see there, and all we have, and all most of us are taught, are 20 minutes at the end of the day of Musa. This is what a Yiras Shamayim should look like. But even Yisrael Salanta said, limud of Musa is not enough. You need to do limud of Musa with his pilus, and most people today don't even know what his pilus is. So we have an issue. We puzzle things outside of us. And then we realize there's something we're deeply lacking. And then people have to go out and they realize this is exactly what they're lacking. And this is mashleim, their Torah, their tefillah, their avodas Hashem. It gives them everything they're lacking. And then they say, but now I'm a kosher over here. And why doesn't Torah have that? And brings up deep hashkafic issues. And some people, mamash sends off the derech. It's a real issue. So I want to name this phenomena and I want to explain what the tikkun is. I want to explain why this is happening Kabbalistically and Al Pi Chassidus. The Sfarim HaKadoshim speak hundreds of years ahead of time, as they often do, exactly what will happen, exactly that this will happen, exactly what the tikkun is supposed to be. And they're speaking to a generation that don't just want to learn the Torah of Das, but the Torah of returning something to our heart. And that's called transformational Torah. I'm coining a term here on the Coach Menachem podcast. And I think that if you understand the gift of transformational Torah and the nisyones, the challenges of transformational Torah, and how this fits perfectly into what's happening with the IFS and Mashiach and the steps before Mashiach comes, you're going to realize we are right on track for the struggle. This is a good struggle. Are you all with me? A quick emotional check and you're following. So the Cheva usually gives me 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to maybe take 25 minutes. This is what I want to say. The first thing I want to say is the following. Do you feel that sense that you didn't learn these kind of Torahs or teachings and therefore you want to go and you love learning them from Joe Dispenza, you love learning from Tony Robbins, you love learning from Lamarck, you love learning Wim Hof because it's giving you something that you so much want that really builds you. It's the Torah of Kalim rather than the Torah of Or. That's really building you. Do you understand that? And do you often as Jews feel, so many Jews come to our retreats and seminars I hear all the time. I went and did this by Tony Robbins, I did this by Joe Dispenza, I really did this by Eckhart Tolle, but it feels so different to do it as a Jew from Torah. Like, what is that we're looking for? So there's a frustration, there's a pain, and there's a division that comes with that, and how do we bring that all together? Fine. So this is what I'm going to put on the table today. First of all, I'm going to tell you, everything that we're learning out there is 100% in Torah. Number one, 100%. I'm going to show you mainstream Makoras for the most popular things right now. I could do this in 3 hours. I understand I have 5 minutes to do it. I'm going to speak fast. It's okay. I can do that. I'm a professional. Number one. Number two is, but the fact that we have to learn it externally in the Chetzonim and then say, hey, here it is in Torah, is a chesaron. It's just a chesaron. It's a problem. It shows that there is something we're lacking. And I want to tell you what the Vilna Gaon and other Tzaddikim say on that subject. Why this is the derech. And Al Pi Kabbalah, what they teach is a secret of Mashiach ben Yosef. It's a secret of what happens is a very radical idea that it's almost like an oynish. When Hashem wants to bring a certain Gileon of the Torah of transformation, the Torah of Tikkun Amidas, the Torah of Amunah Lamaisa, the Torah of Devekus, when Hashem wants to bring that in, he gives a chance for that to come. Hashem Yirakim, these are not my words. From the Torah Olam, from the Torah world. If we are not closed and are open to that Ashpah, I'm just quoting straight off from Tzaddikim now, I'll show you at the end, then that Torah has to be revealed. Those Kalim, those secrets, those Soidas have to be revealed through secular sources. And then we have the Busha to learn them there and then realize, hey, they were in our Torah the whole time. But now we have to integrate the Torah and them back together. And therefore, the generation that's so low, that was so traumatized, or the generations that Zikm say that is opening up to deeper sensitivities, and that we have to have devekas. It's not enough to follow mitzvahs anasha malamada, to do mitzvahs by rote. And we now need to find, it's because we're yearning for nevuah. It's because we're yearning to attack in our midas like never before. We're not satisfied with just learning something as information and going through practice by rote. Our souls are opening up. And therefore, the only place to find our path is to go out externally. That's the only place this stuff is. That's just the truth. But the more we see it, the more we learn it, the more we remember it, the more we reopen those channels within Torah. And through the path of integration is the path of Mashiach. Now, everything I just said is radical, but it's 100% sourced in very nice sources. So let's go through this right now. One of the first things I want to show you, I just want to run through for 10 minutes, a bunch of absolutely mainstream, top quality trauma therapies, modalities that thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, it's true to say, Jews are not just doing, but they're leading. And I want to show you maforish sources that say that they're true. Now, first of all, we have to understand that this is part of the Kabbalah. If you want to go more into this Kabbalah, Chassidus part, I'll go into it later. First of all, it's not a coincidence that if you go look at a lot of those techniques that I mentioned above, it's not only secular sources that we're learning, it's secular sources that are revealed by Jews. And that itself is a phenomenal thing. EMDR, eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing came from Francine Shapiro, Jewish. Gestalt therapy came from Jews. Somatic experiencing, which is everyone's favorite thing today, is from Peter Levine. IFS, Richard Schwartz is really breaking that down. He's part Jewish in some form. Rick Doblin, I want to stay away from the controversy of psychedelics today, but a lot of from Yidden are finding healing in that field for better or for worse. I don't know what to tell you. The leader of that to bring the scientific research to the mainstream is Rick Doblin. Logotherapy, Viktor Frankl. We know Ava Maslow. We know Eric Fromm. Mindfulness. People think mindfulness was a Buddhist revolution that's changing the world of mental health. Literally, mindfulness is a Jewish revolution, because all the people that went to the East and learned the techniques and brought it back and mainstreamed it and popularized it and broke it down into protocols and made the apps out of it and did the scientific research to push it into the mainstream. Whether it's John Kabat-Zinn, whether it's Ram Dass, he lifted up consciousness, whether it's Richard Davidson, who led some of the scientific research, or Daniel Goleman, or Jack Kornfield, or Joseph Goldstein, or Sharon Salzberg. Listen to these neshamas, listen to these names. These are Jews waking up in a secular world, whatever that means. So let's break this down. EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Francine Shapiro is walking down the street. She realizes she has intense emotions. She moves her eyes side to side. Suddenly, the intense emotions go away. It's one of the top trauma therapies in the world. There's countless stories of people having breakthroughs of years of trauma, literally in moments or a few sessions, and they move their eyes from side to side. When I first heard this by a PhD student of psychology when I was lecturing very years ago, she was telling me how powerful this is. And I said to her, it's funny that they called it eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, because really they could find if they did, and it's got nothing to do with the eyes, is what I said to her. It was the end of a class. Students asking questions. I was like, if you understand that, she was explaining to me the first time, I was like, you could really move any part of your body synchronistically. I don't know how to say that word. I was like, you can shake your hands and do that would have the same effect. It's very interesting. And she said, Rabbi Katz, that's so fascinating you say that, because they're now, they go into the third world countries where like a small town has had an earthquake, and they teach the kids, rather than doing the eyes, they teach the kids to tap their hands like this. She said, how did you know that? I said, well, I know how. I tell you how I know that is because EMDR is maforish, it's explicit in the Baal Shem Tov. I said, but there in the Baal Shem Tov, he talks about that it's really not the movement of the eyes. It is a bilateral stimulation, all this scientific understanding, trying to understand what it is. He says, really, it's got to do with moving your eyes like that is knocking you to a state of deveikus. And if you did any other continuous movement of the body, it would also just distract the mind, and it would work. So here is EMDR 300 years ago, already in, what are we talking, the early 1700s, literally by the Baal Shem Tov. In the Sefer Tzavas and Rivash by the Baal Shem Tov. Torah number 80. V'lifamim tzarich listekel lekan lekan, k'dei lahadbik machshavaso b'bo yisbarach, mimnei chamrius gufa shehu mesach or mavdil al neshama. When the chamrius of the guf, when the ego, when the consciousness, when the intensity of the energies in the body creates a mesach, a mavdil, a separating screen that doesn't allow us to access our higher consciousness. That's basically the Hasidic definition of trauma. When we're carrying intense emotion, desire, fear, lust, ego, and it's blocking out our ability to sense light, energy, goodness, hamuna, guidance, then the solution is surich listakel lekan lekan. You need to move your eyes from side to side. And that knocks you, because moving your eyes takes so much energy, it knocks you out of the intellectual mind, and you open up to light and energy, and that releases everything within you. So there is EMDR maforish. Now, you still have to tend your kindle, your family, your friends, yourself. Go do EMDR, go do the therapy, because they've broken it down into protocols and they understand what it works and who it works for, right? But here it is explicitly, it's all about you move your eyes from side to side. Isn't that fascinating? I did Vipassana meditation when I was 23 years old. Millions of people have sat for 10 days and learned that. That's another technique, which is about scanning the body as thoughts and fears and pain and addiction come up. That was the first time I experienced deveikus. I blew out of my body. Technically, it's a Buddhist meditation technique, but Lamaisa, it's just scanning the body. But that's really the same mechanism as all these thoughts and feelings of clippers come up. You just keep moving your body. You don't engage with them, and you learn how to detach, and that moves you into higher state. That's the same as something called TAT. You can look it up. It's the same as a therapy called Psych K. So let's go further. You've all heard of EFT. Who's heard of the tapping technique, right? You tap here, you tap here, you tap here. And as the trauma comes up, you keep speaking it out. This abuse happened to me. This abuse, even though it happened to me, I completely accept myself. I completely love myself. And you bring that up. So first of all, there's men. You can see the Divrei Shlomo, a Talmud of the Maggid of Mezrich, and other tzaddikim. They talk about how in vidui that you have to speak out the pain, the trauma, because when we feel pain or sadness or anger or despair, they call it chet. We go into beliefs or thoughts or feelings which are disconnected from Emunah. Then they become embedded in our energy field, in our ruach, in our dibor, in our thoughts. We invest our das into them, and therefore we have to speak out and repeat those things over and over again. Yisrael Salanta in one of his avodas in Musa, you can read about it. He would speak for hours and hours. He would learn one line from Musa, and he would say the line over and over again, over and over again. I was abused and I'm hated and abandoned. I was abused and hated and abandoned. Or Yisrael Salanta would say, kibbut aim. You should love your mummy and tati. You should accept them over and over again until it opened up the heart by his pilot, until the heart is feeling it. Very similar thing, but more importantly, Gary Craig, who innovated EFT, was really based on a similar system created by somebody else. What was his explanation? Why do we have to tap? So they spoke about meridian systems. Now, this sounds so goyish. I don't know what to say. There's meridio systems. There's energy fields in the body. And when we tap, he would say the negative emotions cause a disruption in the body's energy system. Now, I've had Rosh Hashivas come to me and say, this is goyish stuff. And here's always the line, is energy fields avodah zarah? Are we trying to heal using energy fields? Because everything we don't know about has instantly the din of avodah zarah. I don't know how it came to be such a thing, but no, that's not called avodah zarah. Right, Gary Craig says the energy that flows through the meridian systems becomes blocked or imbalanced, and the ikka of the tapping is to open it up. So it's fascinating to me that we don't recognize this. Not only is EFT 100% within Torah, it's mamash halacha. I don't know if you've ever been to a Kabbalistic ritual called Yom Kippur before, but we mamash spend the whole day doing tshuva by tapping our chest. Now you're going to say, Rabbi, that's different. That's called chet. Now, first of all, the Kabbalistic and Hasidic and definition of chet is thoughts and feelings and actions that are a steerer to the emunah, to the light of the devekas we live in. That's obvious. But I don't need to get technical with you and defensive. Listen very carefully. In the Kitvei Ari and Shar Ka'agavanas, Drush Torah Ha'amida, Drush Hey, he says it mafarish. Okay, what does he say? Nodesh Leiv Ha'adam Naseh Makoyach Gadol Ha'oiris Hamizgalim Sham B'choiza. There's a lot of energies that are stored in our heart. V'choite Gorim Histalchus Hamoichin Lahaloisam Lamala B'makoymem Hastum V'hamakusa. When we sin, when we feel anger or hate or pain or lust, the energy within our heart literally becomes blocked, and it goes up and ascends, and it becomes disconnected until and the light and energy of Emunah within us can't access our heart. And therefore the channels in our heart are literally blocked. He says, Va'al hakas, and by tapping on the heart, he says the right hand represents the light of Hashem's light and blessing of the world that is left us and gone above, the Ora Das, this Pashtas Das. And he says by tapping on a hand, we bring the light of higher consciousness down, and we open up the tzinorot, we open up the channels again so that energy should flow into us. So we dafke, literally like EFT, literally we're doing in EMDR, we're bringing up the challenge, we're bringing up the struggle, we're bringing up that we're doing tshuva. It's a whole new mahal to understand tshuva, that which we want to release and return to seeing Hashem, feeling the love, feeling the devekas. And we tap to clear the blocks of our heart and to be mamshich the or. You can read exactly what he says there. Mamshich the or and the energy to bring the chasadim, the light and revelation back in, which he says creates flow and light and energy. So there you go. There's EFT is not just in Torah, it's mamash in the halacha, but we don't do it that way. Mindfulness, one of the most popular techniques in the world. Mindfulness is mamash in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says, maforish, on the section of tefillah, it says that when a person has thoughts or machshava zaras come to them, in the middle of tefillah, we should just quieten our mind for a period of time until they pass and then go on. Quieting the mind, that's called a shkata. The P.S. Rebbe says word for word mindfulness. We need to witness our thoughts, be odas arachash, watch the thoughts come up, watch the movements in the body come up. He says, watch the dimyonas come up. He says, don't engage with them, don't invest in them and think about them. Then it makes them strong. He says, clear, watch them pass and come up. Be odas arachash. Just notice the light and energy. We all know this is called the witnessing mind. A Buddhist friend, so this is the witnessing mind that doesn't engage with the thoughts and feelings, but watches them and they dissolve and melt away, says the Piaseczna. Witnessing mind. What's the witnessing mind? That's called das. The das is the part that watches and witnesses all the thoughts. Das, da, to daya is dalid ayin. If you flip around the letters, dalid ayin is literally the word witnessing. So we have in the Torah, literally from the Piaseczna, literally you can see in the Ramban, literally you see from Chazal, that the idea that you have before tefillah, you have to always begin with mindfulness, the watching, witnessing mind that doesn't engage. But today we have to learn that from Buddhism, or Jews that learn that from Buddhism, or for apps that are even some Jewish apps are really just teaching the simple mindfulness practice. But this is from our own tradition. But nobody taught us that in school. That's mafurish in the Piaseczna in multiple places, but no one taught it to us. Can I give you a few more? Let's go more radical. I'm amazed that people, I get this all the time. IFS. People see this as just the most exciting thing in the world. It is painful that we don't recognize this from Torah. And you have to literally learn Kabbalah to get this because it's so mafurish. IFS is basically parts work. And parts work is basically when fear or doubt or trauma from your history comes up, you learn that you can talk to it. And each part of our trauma in a child has a story, it has a narrative, it has a belief. It has actions it wants to do, fight, flight, freeze, etc. And by talking to our middas, by separating them out, engaging each one, we can take off its becomes blended with our mind, and we have to unblend ourselves from it. And there's parts that go into exile, and they carry burdens. And the goal is self-leadership, that our actions and our choices are determined by ourself, our true self, but not our middas that try and define themselves of ourself. You've heard all this before. Literally, not just the model, but the model is literally the model in Kabbalah called the Partsuf. And the Partsuf begins like this, that you have consciousness called Chabad, and then you have 7 middas, 7 desires of the heart, right? And the goal is that the self, which is by all terms, by all of Chazal, by all of Chassidus and Kabbalah, is called the Das. And then you have middas. The middas are separate parts. And each of the middas, in the idea of tikkun, all the parts of the self, all the separate middas, separate emotions, separate desires are all living in alignment with the das. The das is the manhig, the leader. But in the idea of shvira, that's the bechina of ana emlach, that all the middas go into business for themselves. They each say, I am the ruler. And they all angry at each other. In the tikkun, when a person's done tikkun a middas, tikkun a das, shlemus a das, then there's the idea that all the middas look at each other with love. They're all looking at each other. There's terms in Kabbalah with smiling faces. But when a person is broken, then all the middas are arguing at war with each other, and they're angry faces or sad faces. And this is the language that the Kabbalists use. So IFS has the self, which is always called the atzmius, is always called in the Hasidic form the das. The word parts, I'm doing parts work. Yeah, Torah doesn't work for me. I do parts work. Literally, the word middah literally means a part. A middah literally means a measured, limited amount of something, because the das is the infinite, the yama chachma, the highest consciousness, is infinite. But a middah means a measured, finite amount, aka a part of consciousness. Just the anger, which isn't integrated to the whole mind. Just the lust, the desire for pleasure, which isn't integrated into the whole mind. And that's the idea of transmutation of the parts to reintegrate into them. It's by the Baal Shem Tov. It's amazing. The Baal Shem Tov calls the middas that they go into Gullus. A middah that is not serving our das, that is not serving Hashem, goes into Gullus, right? And it's literally called in IFS exiles. IFS calls about blending when we don't have das, when the das isn't born. That's called Iba, Unico, and Moichin. When there isn't das, a sense of myself separated, unblended is IFS's term from my ego. And this is what's called hachna and bittul. Is the idea to be machnia the machshavas. That's the Balatanya has whole chapters on this. So our thoughts are blended, and then we have to separate ourselves. That's the beginning of binyan of das. and then we have to unblend ourselves. And these parts that have midas, they're called midas ras, they're burdens, and they're in exile. The das goes into exile. That's what it's called, blended. Our consciousness goes into exile. That's already in the Kid Fe'ari. We are unconscious, unaware of our sense of self. We are going after our demioinus. And then we have to mitak in the midas. Rabbi Nachman says, Maforish, you can talk to your body parts. You can dialogue with the self. There's a beautiful chazal. Midrash says the difference between Rishayim and Tzaddikim is Rishayim, that the heart talks to them, like the heart just goes, do this or don't do this. But with Tzaddikim, they talk to their heart and they guide the heart where the heart should be. Today, I don't want to get too controversial. We'll leave this for another Coach Menachem. But today, there's a subject in the top researchers in IFS called unattached burdens. So unattached burdens means people that are doing parts work with clients are finding that there's other voices that are attached to them. Are you getting straight into debukim, and it mamish fits perfectly, and exorcisms. And they teach people to use IFS to talk to these entities and separate from them. This is very controversial, but psychologists are seeing this around the world, and this fits mamish into discussions that I had in Kabbalah. Breath work, my friends. Kol haneshama v'neshama tahalel ka. Kol neshima v'neshima. Ori Chazal say, with every breath, we're supposed to experience the divine. The Sulam Aliyah, the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim in the 1500s, Rabbi Nachman, the Kamana, had techniques of breath work. The Baal Shem Tov said explicitly that breath work is the easy way, he says. I can show the sources maforish on the inside. The easiest way in Amida Tefillah Torah 27 to access the Vekas, just through breathing in the light, just using the shamas, bringing in energy and exhaling it. Abelafia taught extraordinary breathwork techniques. In Torah, you always combine breathwork techniques with sustained attention on divine letters or divine energies of visualization. That's the power to launch out of our body. Most importantly, the main student of the Uriah Kadosh, Rav Chaim Vital, said, in the name of his Rebbe Uriah Kadosh, about Abelafia's technique, that the breathwork technique of Abelafia is one of the techniques of prophecy. That means prophet itself. If you're into Kabbalah or meditation or not, we're all into prophets. That was an advanced breathwork technique. So we see all the way through our tradition, practical skill sets of breathwork. Joe Dispenza is teaching people to meditate for hours a day. He's saying there's nothing is healing. He's doing the research and bringing the science to the forefront. I know countless Jews, especially Torah Jews, who have gone to Joe Dispenza retreats. They open up their life. Now they sit with their earplugs and eye covers for literally hours each day, meditating on that. I had one rabbi say to me, this is not the Jewish way. This is not how we were talking on midas. I had to show him the famous Sefer Charedim. Can I read you from Sefer Charedim, chapter 65? V'gam b'kama chaburim arashonim nibza. This is already hundreds of years ago. She's buddhidus for precious for the vekas. That already from hundreds of years ago, he said hundreds of years ago, that they would practice this buddhidus, precious separation, devekas, connecting to the light. Listen what he says in the name of the Rizal. This is revolution. That this is what the Chasidei Yisrael would do. This is what they practice. Hayinu shebihisam levadam mafrishim medaitam in yonei olam hazeh. They would go by themselves, and he's going to tell the frequency, how much you should do this. And they would separate their mind from all the noise of olam hazeh. This is called gerushin, to get a get from this world. And they would connect their mind to Hashem, to source, to the source, to the shorish, it's called in some places, to the light, the energy, the Orein Sof, the Kach Limad. And this is what the Uriah Kadosh said. Listen, my friends who lived in yeshiva, this is revolution. The Uriah Kadosh said this heals our body and our soul 7 times more than Limud Torah. That if you practice this each day, each week, he's going to say how frequently, this is emotionally transformative. And according to the ability of an individual, by the way, in our generation, that ability is getting more. A person should do this once a week. Once a week, spend a day meditating. Or at least once every 2 weeks. And the minimal, he says, not less than once a month, spending a few hours in that state, it's emotionally, psychologically transformative. There's countless sources of energy work, of hands-on healing within our tradition. Yehuda Fatai says, anytime you go to heal someone, put your hands in them and channel out an energy, giving someone a blessing without putting their hands in them. And he says, that's already in Tanakh that we see this. I've got many of these things. Cheva, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Hine yomim ba'yim noyam Hashem Elokim v'shalachti ra'av ba'aretz lo ra'av l'lechem v'lo tzama l'mayim ki im l'shmo es divrei Hashem. The Navi and Amma says there's coming a day when we're not hungry, we're not thirsty, not for bread, not for water, but the Devar Hashem. Torah is likened to bread and water. What do you mean we're hungry for the Devar Hashem? We have Torah, we have mitzvahs, we have Daf Yomi, Baruch Hashem. What is this? So the Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Lamed Ches, if I remember correctly, Bezrat Hashem says Devar Hashem is prophecy. There's a generation where the Torah that they learn is enough. They will want direct experience. And to have the direct experience, like Kimala Haaretz De'eretz Hashem, Kamayim Liyam Achasim, there's going to be a period very soon, Bezrat Hashem Yisbarach, where all of humanity's consciousness will grow, will open, expand. We will all experience the divine light. And the prophet Yechezkel says, "V'nasati lahem lev echad v'ruach chadasha." Hashem's going to give us a new heart. He's going to heal our heart to access prophecy. Go see Shari Kedusha. The first step of prophecy of the Vekas is you have to metak in your lev. Before you even learn Torah properly with the Vekas, you have to discover tikkun and mudas. You have to take out the kas and the gaiva and the kina and the kavod. And Hashem has to give us a new heart. Attain b'kibechem v'hasirasi lev ha'evan. Hashem says, I'm going to remove your heart of stone. Heart of stone is a traumatized heart that's blocked, that's stuck, and there's no flow, there's no light of energy. That's what EFT was telling us, right? And I'm going to remove the lev ha'evan, the heart of stone, B'saram, v'nesati lehem lev basar. And I'm going to give you a heart that's of flesh. A heart of flesh means it's spiritually sensitive. When we remove our ego, when we remove our lust, when we remove our addiction, when we remove our hate, our anger, our pain, then our heart feels the Kedusha. It feels the Kedusha of the words we daven. It learns Lishma. We learn Torah. We don't just learn intellectually. The light fills us, right? This is what the Vilna Gaon said is going to happen at the end of days. This is what the Baal Shem Tov taught, that our generation, the simple folk like me, like you, like us, we're going to have big mavakshim for devekas, for tikkun midas, but to open that up, we need to clear our heart. So now I'm going to tell you the most radical thing, and thank you to Asha and Coach Menachem for giving me so long. I know you wouldn't have agreed necessarily, but apparently this is as long as it took. I'm going to tell you a secret now. This is in the Sifrei Kabbalah. This is in the Vilna Gaon and the Talmudi of the Vilna Gaon. This is the secret of Mashiach ben Yosef. But I'm going to bring it through two simple sources right now. Rabbi Simcha Bonham Pesishka. And he says the following secret. Masha anuayim sheka'es meschadshim chochmas chadashes ba'olam. Why that we see, this is already 100 plus years ago. We see today, there's a whole new wisdom, chochmas chadashes, a whole new wisdom coming into the world. All these wisdoms that of science knows, of personal transformation. Why is it coming about? Kavah, he says, it was already prophesied by the Zohar and Parshas Vayera. Masha Kasev, B'shanas Sheish Ma'as Shana L'chaya Noach. This is not a shir. I'm really here to answer your questions. So basically, there's the famous Zohar that says in the time of Noach's life, in the 600 year, when the flood was about to begin, Nivku kol mayanas hatoyhem rabba v'arubas hashemayim niftachu. The heavens opened up and the waters came from above, and the well springs from below and the waters came. That was the flood. And the Zohar there predicts with a prophecy that in the 600 year, in what's called 1840, this is what the Zohar predicts, there will be floods of more Torah and Chassidus that will come into the world. That's Chochmah Ilah, of higher wisdom. That's the generation where the Baal Shem Tov, the Vilna Gaon, and the Ramchal, and all of Chassidus came out. And there will be a beginning of wisdom, of secular wisdom, of personal transformation, of science, of meditation, of trauma therapy that will come into the world. And the Zohar says Mashiach will come when those two inform each other meet, and the oilam of Torah using Kabbalah and Chassidus will understand and integrate that secular knowledge and create a unified path. Because you can go to the four corners of the world. Each of those therapies are wonderful, but it doesn't get a person all the way across the line. They don't have Kedusha. They have Kalim, but not all. And our job is to find them and reintegrate them, bring them back together. So listen to this. It's phenomenal. So he goes to say that, he said, now here's the part I want to get to. For all of you Jews out there seeking, finding amazing sparks, feeling it doesn't quite go all the way, but they never taught us this in yeshiva. This is your mission, your holy soul. And we're hungry for this and we're thirsty for this. The days have come, but the goal is to take that and reintegrate it back to Torah and then evolve it to a much more advanced model. This is what he said. Because the Torah world, because us, Hashem Yerachim, not to judge, This is all responsibility because we were closed to those things energetically. Because we said it's not for us. Torah is enough. Of course, the klalim of Torah is enough, but only limit Torah in a chitzonius way without taking limit. Even Yisrael Salan to the Basram Dov said that was enough. Because we weren't worthy to receive this information of transformational Torah. Chatfu hachitzoinim es hashpoa mamayanis hachachma la'iskehem. The secular sources grab that energy. This is a revolutionary understanding. It's not just some guy thinks of a model and another guy thinks of a model. Why didn't people for thousands of years think about this? Hashem wants to bring in the light of transformational Torah. This is what the Kabbalists say. He brings it to the front people, our Malach, HaShosh, and we're not Makabbalit. It's not what we want. So Hashem says, I need to get into the world. So he brings it in through secular sources, often secular Jews, and they come out with it. That's literally what he says here. He brings that wisdom through secular sources, through the back door. And it's our job to find them, increase their power, integrate them together, and bring them back to a path of Kedusha, the Chochmas Torah, to the wisdom of Torah. The Gera Rebbe, Rav Yisrael Alter, already 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, said the following thing, just to show you this model is consistent in Torah. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought 3 new Ashpoas into the world in the last 100 years. One of them, what he says there is the Olam of Torah did not be Makabbalit. They weren't accepting of it. So Hashem brought it into secular sources. What are those 3 new Ashpoas? He says something different. One, he says he's speaking to the same point as well. One, he says the sense of Eretz Yisrael, the love of Eretz Yisrael. He said the film world didn't, the Vilna Gaon tried, and the Maggid Mezritch tried to bring us back, but the film world didn't be Kabbalah. So he said that energy that Hashem wants to bring, our love of Eretz Yisrael, he said he brought that to the secular Zionists to come to Eretz Yisrael because the film world wouldn't take it. Stark words. Number 2 he says the idea for tshuva. He said the film world could have opened up to tshuva and connected more. He says, but the Balei Tshuva, the Chayzer B'Tshuva, they took that energy of returning. And finally, he said secular science. That was a wisdom that's supposed to come through Kabbalah and Chassidus, but actually we didn't receive that, and that's all personal transformation, and we have to bring that back. So in summary, there's 1,000 sources for all the things I'm saying, but in summary, my friends, we were told, Rachmana Libaboy, Hashem wants our hearts. We were told this is the most important part of Torah that we have to work on. We were never taught how to pray, how to have that emunah. And many of us just blocked our hearts and felt disconnected. And thousands of you do today. If you're a Rav and you travel around the world, you know this is a systemic issue, and it's a major issue for Klal Yisrael right now. Number 1, many people, Mavakshim, have found a sipuk, a satiation in learning personal transformation and spiritual experiences and healing from secular sources. This is wonderful. And many therapists and healers, including holy people like Coach Menachem, bring that back and make that accessible to people so they can get their shalom bias, and they can attack in their middles, and they can have more simchas achayim and more devekas and more better kavanah into tefillin. The limit of Torah is better because they don't have trauma in their mind. They can just pay attention. And so that's wonderful. But then it creates division. I'll tell you some controversial stories if you want to hear them. Are we learning secular? Are we not learning Torah? Is this about Hashem? Isn't Torah enough? Torah is enough, but no source ever said just limit Torah is enough. You always had to work on your heart, the Vodah Shibboleth. But now we see that all those things were in Torah. So if in Torah, why didn't we get them in Torah? The answer is because we were dealing with Galus in a very deep way, and we lost connection to the necessity and the power of them. And they came into the world often through Jewish sources, which is part of Mashiach ben Yosef's path. And now our job is to, yes, go out and integrate them and then bring them back to Torah. I just want to speak last. This is called a bira in Kabbalah and Chassidus. There is a beauty of learning these secular sources and realizing how profound they are, number 1. But they are not shalom by themselves. All of IFS has problems. Breathwork has problems. It doesn't work for everybody. The tools don't always work, besides the fact they like Kedusha. The first goal is, which is called birurim, is you take them. You do a bira, what's good with them and what's not good with them. People come to me, I did this modality, it doesn't quite work. I'm a therapist, I see it works, but I see it doesn't work. Fine. When you understand their source in Torah, you supercharge their power. When we integrate them, then we open them up and we see how they can be used. Then we can teach them in a more advanced way to the world, and we clear our hearts. This is the beginning of the path of prophecy. This is Hashem fulfilling the words of the Navi to take out the Lev Evan, to open up our consciousness with healing, with breakthroughs, with light, with energy, the spiritual experiences. And it transformed my Torah, my avodas Hashem completely. I know it's done that for thousands. And this is the opening of Hashem saying, I want this light in the world now. If you're not going to bring it in, we'll bring it in together. But we will be ashamed by that, that's what I'm saying. But we'll be ashamed that we have to go out to the world to find what we're most hungry for. But fine, let's do the work together. Let's learn and appreciate and value all the gifts we've been given. Let's unify them and elevate them with the advanced wisdom and technology of Torah. And let's use them to transform our communities and our kahillas and take them to all of the world and be all goyim and be a light to people and raise ourselves up. This is the derech of Mashiach. And the desire to connect to them is a holy of holies, a spark within you. This is transformational Torah, a Torah that was in exile and a Torah that's coming home. That's what the Sfarim say. This is how I'd like to introduce today's discussion. Thank you, Coach Menachem, for your patience. Thank you, Rabbi Asher, for your patience. Hineni.
Okay. I guess I could say whoa. That's A. You brought out a source for everything. I just have one question.
Yeah.
EMDR, CBT, I think you can cover, but you brought out all the sources. Well, but where's the source for Coach Menachem?
Such good. Coach Menachem is in the Neshama Klali. He's the liquid of the Makam, the Shekhinah, to bring these places together. The Yidden should come, and he's the Bechinas of the base of Musa in the door, that people come in to do the work. That's the answer to the question.
Beis HaMusa, we got a new name.
No,
The
we gotta
base
check
of
the
Musa.
title.
Well, why does everyone have cameras off? Is this the new Olam here?
Beis
People are
HaMusa.
scared.
But Rabbi Doniel, I do want to mention that many of us need healing of our relationship with Hashem. So we're talking about all these modalities in Torah. They'd rather go away for a minute and then come back. Or they want to learn a new concept, or maybe they were hurt from the Torah in the name of Torah. So that's something we could talk about. Maybe we'll talk about it soon.
I'm happy to talk about it whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Okay, let's take a poll from everybody. It's wild what you just did, but okay, we'll catch our breath. Let's go. Here we go. Three
Our
questions.
polls.
Here we go. I want to see where everybody's holding. Number one, do you believe the Torah should be taught mainly as a system of knowledge and halacha, a path of inner transformation and consciousness, both equally, unsure, still exploring? These are all hypothetical questions. Just answer to the best of your ability.
Why can't I vote? I want to vote.
You could vote. I'm letting you see the answers as they vote.
Okay, that's why. I got the cheat sheet.
Right. Should modern modalities, breath work, meditation, trauma-informed tools be integrated into Torah learning? Yes, they help people access Torah more deeply. Maybe, but only with clear boundaries. No, Torah alone already contains what we need. Or D, I'm not sure. Number three, we talk about prophecy, mystical states, expanded consciousness. Do you feel, number one, inspired and curious? I want to experience this. Two, respectful but cautious. Not everything is for everyone. Three, skeptical. This sounds too risky, speculative. One of those schemes, one of those, sign up, get rich programs. Or D,
Sign up, get in the programs.
Yeah, get in the programs. Or D, neutral, still figuring it out. Well, hypothetical questions, just what you feel, what you think.
These are good questions.
Excellent questions.
Your questions got better. Taking a Shaila.
Okay, 5 more seconds. Three, two, one. Here we go. Do you believe Torah should be taught mainly as only 5% the system of knowledge and halacha, 21% the path of inner transformation and consciousness, 71% of people believe both equally, that should be a knowledge, halacha, and inner transformation? It should be one.
Well, I have to respond to you. I get responding rights. How can a person, I don't want to get angry with your audience. How can a person say Torah should be taught as a system of knowledge of halacha only when Torah itself doesn't say that? Torah itself says, Chazal say that Torah could be a Sam Chayim or Sam Mavis. That Torah can be an elixir of life, or elixir of death. I know many from people that are no longer formed that they experience just pain and darkness through Torah because it wasn't taught with a clear heart. So Torah says from beginning to end, Chazal say from beginning to end, that we need to teach Torah with tikkun amidus, and that is a part of Torah. So I can't imagine anyone say a system of knowledge and halacha only without the avodah shebelev. That's literally in Eleno. This is literally all the way through Torah. It talks about the avodah shebelev as well. So it's what I'm saying is it's not Torah to say Torah should only be intellectual and halacha. If you learn Torah intellectually, you would see that you have to include the heart. Now, what your mahalach is, you may not like breathwork, you may not like Chassidus, you may like Musa, you may not like Musa, but every major stream of Torah without exception, even the Rambam Maimonides pulled on secular philosophical systems as how we should work on ourselves, because he didn't have a direct Masorah for that, and he himself acknowledges that that's what he did. But there's no stream of Torah at all that says only intellectual and not inner work. Just to be clear.
Next question: should modern modalities, breathwork, meditation, trauma force tools, be integrated into Torah learning? 61% yes, they help people access Torah more deeply. So by far, most people believe that yes. 3% maybe, but only with clear boundaries. 8%
Sure.
no, Torah alone comes with everything we need, and 8% I'm not sure.
So again, Torah doesn't claim that Torah comes with everything it needs. Torah says everything you need is also midas work. Rav Yisrael Salanta, read Rav Yisrael Salanta, the Talmud of Rav Yisrael Salanta, who screamed about this, and the Baal Shem Tov that screamed about this. So, this speaks to what I'm speaking about. Should modern modalities, breathwork, meditation, and trauma be integrated into Torah learning? Listen very carefully to those words. The word is a trap. It's a great question. What if breathwork and meditation, trauma-informed tools were actually already in Torah learning? What if they're in all the mainstream sources that we're already learning? So when we see this is the ick of everything I want to speak to. When we see them as something secular, and we ask a Yireh Shamayim from Yid, should I integrate something secular into my yeshivas? A from Yid says, Chas v'chalila. But now, the reframe of Torah transformation. Should I draw out the things that were actually in the Baal Shem Tov, in Yisrael Salanta, in Chazal, Kol HaNeshima v'Neshima? Should I bring them out? That is transformational Torah. Then the answer is, it's a konos nefashis not to. If we frame this movement as a secular movement, we'll always say no. And then the frum people won't be able to access it. We'll need it and launch out. But if we say we're not integrating secular things in Torah, we're realizing they're in Torah the whole time. That's the bit we need to do. Then we can be Mechayim Mesim, that we can bring us back to life and add so much depth and value and increase our Yireh Shamayim 100% from Torah. 100% from Torah. Interesting. What was number 3?
Ashamiyat.
Third question: when we talk about prophecy, mystical states, or expanded consciousness, do you feel 67% of people, 2/3, inspired and curious? I want to experience this. 28% respectful but cautious. Not everything
I
is.
appreciate that.
And
For everyone.
skeptical, 2% neutral.
I wonder how the skeptical people would define the risks as. I wonder whether people that are really informed and therefore the risk is reasonable, or they're just a little scared because it sounds a little scary and different. I wonder why they may want to ask questions. Neutral, still figuring it out. Say 2 people. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, a lot of people want to ask questions. We have a lot of questions. I guess let's start off with Ben first. He wants to ask.
Hey, everybody, it's Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Shalom, Rabbi Katz. Thank you so much for being up. By the way, I told Usher, I think it's the 5th time. I counted. It's not the 4th time.
There you go. Baruch haba.
The first was radical Emunah. Second was the psychedelics one. The third one was the war. The 4th one was the manifestation. So I keep track.
Ben's holding. He should get a Star Coach Menachem award or something.
They already gave me one.
Okay.
So I have a little bit of a selfish question. I'll call it selfish. So I followed Baruch Hashem kind of as much as I can. It was a lot, but I love these topics. I would say I try to follow. And the idea of integrating and not integrating, but bringing the way the Rav explained, the Chachma went to the Umay So'ilam, you have to bring it back. That's in terms of, I would say, if I'm understanding, the Rav is saying in practicing or learning about it, but what about someone that wants to get healing on a very practical note at this moment? Let's say, and I know in terms of doctors, let's say someone needs to get a refuah, something medical, they say
Best
you
doctor. Go to the best doctor. Absolutely.
So same thing over here. Someone goes and they just have to. So how does one make it kaddish? Like when they go for the breath work, they say Yiratzon Milfanecha Hashem, and Hashem, you're the one healing it. That's considered integrating it back into Torah. Like how does it? You go to
Sure. Okay. So understanding this, first of all, in most trauma therapies, not all, and I don't like talking about psychedelics necessarily, but because a large part of the oilam, including here, are into psychedelics, I just want to bring it up to make some halakhic distinctions. If you go to IFS as a modality, then IFS is so much about you talk to your mitters. What would you like to tell them? You bring up the therapy. There's very low risk of doing it with someone that there's something tumidic that's going to come into that. And therefore, to go to the best IFS professional that will respect you as a Torah Jew and respect your values. And anyone that's an excellent therapist knows that many clients come in with different values, and you respect their values, you respect their Weltanschauung, right? So if you're working with a top IFS professional and they're respectful of Judaism and religious Jews, etc., and they're just excellent at what they do, halakhically, any rabbi will tell you that's a fine thing to do. I want to make a distinction with psychedelics because in the world of psychedelics, a top psychedelic healer may be using shamanistic practices, which can be treif, gamor, avodah zarah, mamish. And therefore, first of all, Ben, it depends on the modality you're speaking to. If you're speaking to a secularized trauma therapy modality and the therapist is respectful, etc., of what you're doing, then any rabbi would say go to the best therapist and get the best healing to live the best possible life, aleph. Now, there's another chiluk that we want to make in here. When you take something like breath work has out-of-body elements. It has supernatural elements. It has Devakas elements. And you can very much open up to neshama level healing, to be aware of Hispashtas Agashmis, to be in Oilamis, to have experiences with Malachim or Tzaddikim. There's a whole other elements around it. So the higher you go, the more sensitive you want to be to Kedusha, etc. If a person's doing breath work, I would say set and setting is more critical. And you want to choose an environment that is really safe and kosher. It doesn't mean you can't do that in a secular setting. There can be issues with priestess, especially people rolling around on the floor. So the more something is deep, the more sensitive you want to be. It doesn't mean that a Rav won't say, if this is the best breathwork professional in the world, go and do it. But if that's an environment of men and women, if it's an environment of playing Kol Isha, if it's an environment of certain intentions that may be more shamanistic, which can also be sometimes, then a person wants to be more attuned. Once again, is this the right environment for me? There's also a division which I think is artificial and superficial. I once had a debate with a Rebbe of mine, which I just think is a wonderful Jew and completely wrong. He would argue all the time that tikkun amidus has got nothing to do with trauma therapy. And in his philosophy, he really just created a very weird schism. Tikkun amidus is blah, 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 and trauma therapy is a totally different mitzvah. So if you understand this from, it's just simply not true. Of course, we're metakan amidus to be a Yireh Shamayim, we're metakan amidus to be like a Kodesh Baruch Hu, but all of trauma therapy is also to take off the blocks on those very same midas, those very same emotions, so that we can bring ourselves back to align with Hashem. And therefore, l'chatchila, what would be ideal? That every time we're scanning our eyes, and every time we're breathing deeply, and every time we're tapping, it's all with the kavana of being mitaken in my nefesh Bahamas, to come back to my das, to live a life of Devakas. And I want you to know, Tzaddikim say, the Rebbe Rashab in particular, says that when you do something with the kavana of connecting to Hashem, when you do something with the kavana, it totally transforms the energy and power of the tikkun. In our retreats, we always fix intentions. We want to do this l'shem devakas and tshuva ila'ah, and to come back to Hashem. And it really does change the process. So in summary, dear Ben, student number one, fan number one of Coach Menachem, it is always better to do something in an environment of Kedusha. It's always better to do something in the environment with the kavanas, as all my tikkun amidas and all my trauma therapy is part of connecting to Hashem. It's always better to do breath work around people, a massive of kedusha, of holiness, and hold those ideas in mind. Because as we're doing the healing, as we're doing the breakthroughs, it's mafurish taking us closer to the Baal Shem Tov, taking us closer to Yisrael Salanta, taking us closer to the Nefesh Elokis, and it mamish changes the process. But al pi halacha, it's a no-brainer. Go to the best person with the right kavanas, the best person, the best environment. Get it done there. Go and learn the best skill sets. If you can work with Dick Schwartz and IFS, Gavaldi. If you work with Gary Craig and clear yourself with stuff, if they're open to Jews and they're respectful of Jews, if they're today Gabor Mate, who hates Jews and religious Jews so much, then absolutely stay away, chas v'chilul, at all costs, right? Bessel van der Kolk, now he's treif, and he should always be based on the things that he said. So we know what's l'chatchila. It's better to do it in a Jewish environment. The more we do berurim, the more from therapists go and master the techniques, and they come back and we can do them together with Kedusha, it's even more powerful. That's wonderful. But right now, a Yid needs the help. Go to the place where they can get the help. If you're sick, you're bleeding, you don't say, I want a Jew to heal me. You go to the best hospital, you go to the best doctor. That's pashat, pashat, pashat. This is what we need. And through that, the channels open and the healing comes, B'ezrat Hashem. Does that answer your question, Ben?
Yeah. Just one more thing. This is something, maybe a misconception of something in yeshiva. The way they teach us is, and I just want the Rav to clarify that the further the dairas go on, the less holiness we could attain, the less consciousness. And on one hand, like they say, the Rishonim were the Malachim, and we're not. And on the other hand, the way the Rav speaks it, that all the Chachma is coming, and so what is the like? Where should we aim to go?
Ben, you ready? You ready, Ben? You're asking the best question. You know, when I was in yeshiva as a Baal Tshuva 20,000 years ago, we learn about Yeridas Adoros. I remember one of Maggid Shir saying, he said, even the last 5 years, the level that we teach in the yeshiva has dropped. We used to be able to teach Gemara strong, now we have to teach as a Pasha. It's like, what kind of mindset are you giving to Yidden? You're so low. You're so broken. The generation is so low. In our day, we used to be, and I understand there's a chazal, Moshe Feinstein and the man on the plane and monkeys, and we all know all these stories. But Kitzur L'maisa, Ben, there's a understanding we have of tradition, to understand who Chazal were, to appreciate who stood by Har Sinai. And this is Chazal. We have to see them as Gedolim, and we have to have humility and reverence towards them. But at the same time, in a generation that's so broken, we're so shattered, we're disconnected, why are we standing up and talking about how broken we are? Why are we so much worse? Who wants to hear that? And not just Mitzad Chizek, Al Pi Kabbalah, Rabbi Nachman says, and the Leshem says, this is the answer to your question, Ben. Just like there's Yeridas Adoros, there's also a secret called Aliyas Adoros. That the closer we get to Mashiach, the generations hit rock bottom and they actually start to go up. And therefore, the Baal Shem Tov taught that the neshamas in our generation actually have much higher light and energy that we're supposed to attack. And that's why we're mavakshim for all these levels. We're not taking superficial Torah anymore. We're not willing just to absorb that. We need more deeper, more connection. This is why we see around the world people come to our retreats, thousands of people, because they're learning Torah their life and now they want something more. That's not because they're low in neshamas. They're not all coming because they have trauma. A lot of people are very successful in Torah and Tefillah, but they want to open up to a higher level. And the times before Mashiach, Ben, the neshamas open more. They become deeper and higher. And that's what it means, that they're not satiated by bread and water alone, but they want Devar Hashem. The Gemara is saying they want prophecy. You know what that means? Because the neshamas are no longer small and because the neshamas are big, they're not able to be satiated by small Torah. They want a bigger Torah. They want real Devekas, real connection, real Hasagas. And there's more and more people that wake up and the Torah doesn't speak to them. But it doesn't mean the Torah, it just means the Torah that was delivered. I see this in Kiev all the time. I've said this in boardrooms behind the scenes, that the reason that we're paying people to come learn Torah on birthright trips or Maimonides programs is not because the generation isn't spiritual, which is what's often said. They're so spiritually disconnected, they're so on their phones, they're HD, is because they're much higher and much deeper. They're much more intelligent. The generation today is so much more intelligent and deeper than previous generations. And therefore, we're not offering them a Torah that's big enough because we are in Aliyas Adoros. So the secret the Kabbalists say is there's a thing called Aliyas Adoros. In the generations before Mashiach, the neshamas will have more of a yearning, more of a desire of connection. So there's a truth historically that as we move further away from Sinai, we get smaller. But there's another truth, as we get closer to Mashiach, we get bigger. And this Torah of the Torah of transformation is the Torah of we're getting bigger now, and we need more of a connection, and we need more of a healing to master the connection that we're yearning for, and that's the secret.
Thank you so much, Rav. Wow. Thank you.
Bevakasha.
Amazing. So in a nutshell, for those who need healing, should continue looking for the best, and whatever they're doing, continue doing the healing.
Find the healing.
What you're bringing out is the concept. It's not like it's not by us, it's by them. To understand that it's all in the Torah, and for those who are learning it, and for those who are able to bring it back, for those who teach it, to find it in the Torah, teach it from the Torah, connect it with the Torah.
Nice chiluk, Coach Menachem. You're the professional here. I see what you did there, right?
Because you're talking to Moinam.
Yes, yes. No, you're saying right. So let's clarify that. The light is in the Torah, the teachings in the Torah, but the kalim are by the Umas Olam right now. That if you want to learn breath work really, really well, they're teaching it out there really well. But I know a Hasidic Shia that teaches breath work because of 99.9% of the times he went and learned it from this guy over there, and now he's teaching it back. And that's what often happens, right? But it's all in the Torah. But if you need the healing now, it's often more accessible right there. Today, if you look what today is, or look what the calendar is, most of these techniques can be taught by Frum Yidden, sometimes better, sometimes not better. Just because a person is Frum doesn't mean they're doing it better or well. So go to the place that does it best, right? But there's a bridge that's being built by brave souls, and it's a very important bridge for redemption to do this with Kedusha in a high way, and that's exciting. But yes, find the places that do it best, and don't stay out of the paradigm. It's not Torah, because a lot of these things are called Torah in exile. It's Torah that we forgot, and therefore it's okay to do EFT. But EFT, isn't that energy? Isn't that meridians? It's not Torah. Better for me to sit in my trauma, be miserable in my shayim bias than do EFT. Isn't it a Avodah Zarah? Why is it a Avodah Zarah? I didn't learn yeshiva. It must be a Avodah Zarah. No, it's okay. It's okay. Go and do EFT. It's fine. Mamish, it's fine. Right? And heal and find the tikkun. And a non-Jewish teaching, it's a person who's mastered the skill set. Your phone was also made by a non-Jew. And the Ritalin medicine that you take is also made. So it's okay. It's mastered with skill to that. It's helpful. You will also find eventually, if it's helpful and beautiful and meaningful and kosher, it actually was Torah. So take away those artificial divisions. Get the help that you need. Build your heart. It will take us all in the right direction, back to Avodas Hashem, be'emes.
Now the question is what we mentioned before. For those who need healing in regard to the relationship with Hashem, and this question that came in, I'm not sure if it's the same. It says, I went through some trauma in my past, and sometimes when I try to learn or daven, those old wounds come up and block me. How do I integrate healing with my spiritual practice? So this is not healing the relationship, but it's the trauma blocks them from wanting to grow and connect.
Sure. So there's also called religious trauma. A lot of people's trauma is about religion itself. You know, that I did something at a retreat recently that made some Frum members of the audience gasp in shock. I was teaching a technique called mechika, which I learned from Rabbi Nachman and the Baal Shem Tov, which we have a certain taiva in front of us that we're addicted to. Then we erase the energy around us and we reclaim the nitzoitzes within that. People, someone was abused by someone, and I told them to stand up in the crowd and erase the image, to be machnia the image of them, and then find they wanted validation for that person. We claimed that, and suddenly they could set that person free. So some people have certain addictions to their phone, so you erase the phone, or certain traumas, their spouse is abusive, so they erase that, and they found suddenly got their energy back. And someone stood up in the audience and said, I was Frum for years, and I was told, Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Hashem hates you, and Hashem's judging you, and Minister Din, it's just like you said, I have trauma about Hashem. So I said, good, I want you to stand up, I want you to imagine Hashem in front of you, and I want you to raise Hashem. I want you to raise Hashem right now. People are like, oh, you can't erase Hashem, it's Avodah Zarah. I was like, you're not erasing Hashem, you're raising the idol that you have of Hashem, that he's this person that hates you. That's not erasing Hashem. You're putting before you this idol that you have, that Hashem hates you, and he judges you, and he dismisses you, and all that darkness that you had when you grew up, and the shiva you went to, and the Kehillah that was, right? So put that version of God and erase that. And that person, within a few minutes, was flooded by so much light and love because they erased the idol of God. The God that you don't believe in, I don't believe in either, is the line for the Kedusha slavery. So they raised the God that they don't believe in. And suddenly it was left to open up the light and connection. So, in answer to your question specifically, most people that have issues around trauma, they don't have the bandwidth of their das to feel love and connection when they feel so much hate and pain. Their mother hated them so much, or they felt their mother hated them so much, so they just feel unloved. And our mother, connection with our mother, say Chazal, is the connection to the Shekhinah, right? That's what the Eseres Adibris, and the right side is Bein Adam L'Makam, and the bottom of the right side is to honor your mother and father, and therefore honoring mother and father is how we connect to Hashem. And therefore, if you felt your mother was so abusive, you can't love the Shekhinah, you can't feel Hashem's love for you. So by just doing simple tikkun amidah, simple trauma work to take out the pain towards your mother, that automatically, mamela, opens you up to feel more love from the Shekhinah. Anyone whose bandwidth of their mind is dominated by trauma, you're often just not free to feel Hashem's love, His connection, and blessing. So first of all, secular trauma work makes a person learn better, daven better, open, number one. Number two, in answer to your question, when your trauma is around religion, it's around Torah being taught in the wrong way, or growing up in the wrong kehillah, or chas v'chulu 1,000 times a religious rabbi or rebbes and so on abusing you in the worst way, God forbid, then the necessary step is the trauma work, is to release the work, is to heal. And that work has to be done in a secular way to begin to open up. It can be done in a religious way as well. The third is sometimes we have to do our work in a Torah context, because obviously it's better if we realize the Baal Shem Tov talks a powerful way. If I'm addicted to something, some taiva, you can think what people are addicted to in this generation. So one thing is just to take out the taiva from my heart. That's a secular trauma work, right? So I'm no longer focused on that taiva. I'm no longer giving it all my attention, all my bandwidth. One, great, now it's no longer there. But the Baal Shem Tov took it a level forward. He said the taiva that you have, that the desire for pleasure, that's a desire for pleasure of connecting to Hashem, connecting to Torah, connecting to Devekus. So even higher inner work can be when you disconnect from that physical thing from taiva, that's an image of taiva. But then avodas Hashem is you take that energy that was taking you to darkness and you reharness that and you give that back to Hashem, you give that back to Devekus. So part of it inner transformation work is not just to pull out of things that are destructive, but to use the fear that I had for Basav Adam, the fear that I had from that parent, the fear, the trauma that I had, but transmute that back. That's the modern word. In Chassidus, they call it oile v'nichlal, to reintegrate it back to Yiras Shamayim. So the deepest part of the work that we do is not just to disconnect from the destructive version, but to then reharness our midas back to align with Devekus, back to align with our das, back to align to Torah Hashkafas. So on a simple level, any trauma work or healing work that cleanses our heart does open us up to Torah and Kedusha, number one. But number two is with the right hashkafas, we can really deepen that work and that healing process to bring Hashem into it, to bring Torah hashkafa in, and allow ourselves to use the healing to align more with Devekus and Hashem in our lives, which is, of course, the ultimate goal. Now, Coach Menachem, did I answer that sufficiently, or I still left something unaddressed there?
No, what I'm taking out is that, yes, we need healing, and healing itself is amazing, but eventually you can take it to the next level of becoming close to Hashem. Many people think that the healing itself, once you take away the trauma, then automatically your heart can open and feel the love. And this is, I think, many people, that's step number one. Just we're living in a state of fight and flight, constant running and not being able to stop and allow ourselves to feel and connect the way we should. So first, step number one, we need that healing. We're saying eventually we want to focus and gear it to where we want to end up with.
Right. I need one more piece of nuance. I'm sure there are Rosh Yeshiva out there, I've probably spoken to some, that have another concern. And they say, Doniel Katz, a lot of people get healing and then they leave Torah. You hear this in breathwork, you hear this a lot in psychedelics. Because they finally found the tikkun, they left for mitzvahs, they went away. So isn't that a raya of the opposite of what we're saying? That healing doesn't always bring us back to Hashem. Healing can bring us away from Hashem. So I think the answer to that is, first of all, there's a person called Tony Robbins in the world. Tony Robbins can say, if you overcome your blocks, you overcome your issues, you can be more successful. You can get money, you can get cars, you can get girls, you can get whatever you want, right? So that's an example of you can coach someone to overcome their fears of blocks and then just take on any tumor in the world. I have examples I'd give of that, but of things he said to people, but I wouldn't even want to say those words here. Well, now that you're successful, you can be successful at whatever you want in the world. So that technically can happen in Chitzonis. I'm talking about a person with good ishkafas. I'm talking about a person that wants to be a Yiras Shamayim, that's building, right? And the trauma is taking them away from that. If you take a person that does not pursuing their tivas because they're afraid they'll be rejected, and you take away their fear, they can pursue their tivas. If we're talking about it, I don't believe at all, and I don't believe it's ever happened. How's that for a dramatic statement? That a person who's a Yiras Shamayim with good hishkafas suddenly took away his trauma and he went off the derech. What you often find, and you and I probably both know, I'm sure Reb Asher knows as well, is Yidden that were always miserable in Torah, always miserable in the film world. They had tremendous abuse from rabbis, whatever. And then when their heart was taken away, and they stayed in the Torah just because they were so oppressed and emotionally blocked, they could never think outside of that. And when you took away their trauma, then they blew out. And that's not because breath work sent them off the derech. It's because breath work took away their fear, but they still had fears towards the community and judgments toward the community. They still feel that Torah didn't make sense because they never were taught about a Hashem or a Torah that were meaningful for them. So they used that moment of freedom just to say, get this oil off my shoulders, because it was a dark oil. It wasn't a true oil of Hashem. So there are ways to learn to have openings that send people away. But I believe that's because the trauma that they carried there the whole time caused that. But a person who's a normal Yiras Shamayim with good hishkafas, that the trauma just opens them up to be more present, more connected at what they do. And if what they do is Torah mitzvahs, then it only opens up channels of goodness. I hope it's worth clarifying that nakuda.
Okay, Rabbi Doniel, there's a lot of questions here people want to get onto.
Let's go.
I'm next door.
Yeah, okay, sorry, it's your turn.
Hi, Rabbi Katz. I wanted to ask that, you talk about find the best person. Do you think that it's important to have somebody of the same nationality or background? Because I think that might even be a factor in some of the people turning to other kind of therapies or away from, some Jews, they may have, even if they're Torah observant, they're acculturated, they may feel more in common with a fellow countryman than with other, some Jerusalem rabbi.
I'm trying to clarify what you're asking. You're saying, you're talking about a from person going to a from person. Is it better they have a cultural reference?
Culturally, they're the same, at least the same nationality, the same language. Well, obviously.
It depends. It depends what the person's dealing with. I'm from Australia, and if you came to me for help, I'm not going to say, well, you're American, I can't help you at all, right? It depends how much that nationality or that specificity is relevant to your trauma, right? There's some people that just feel that there's some people that can hold more space with more love and compassion and more resonance that may not be from your nationality, but they understand how to speak to you and come at your level. There could be someone who's the same nationality, but they're emotionally checked out. So I would not put that as a big priority. I definitely think that some from people are just not comfortable around people that aren't from. And there is great value, whether it's right or wrong or true or not, they would just feel they could open up more, which is someone which is from like them. And therefore, that's a win, right? That's a win, so go for it. But what if the therapist is less good? Well, if a better therapist is going to make them feel uncomfortable because they're not going to understand their whole world, then okay, so then that's a cost-benefits analysis. Vis-a-vis nationality, Chayesar, can you give me an example of what you're referring to where you think that would be a critical value and necessary?
Yeah, well, I don't really, outside personally, I have a lot of respect for Israelis, with everybody. I don't know if I really go, because I feel like they have different experiences or they see the world different.
I don't know. If you had an Israeli guy coming at you, screaming at you, that would not be your therapist. If you're an Israeli guy who has a beautiful soul and very talented and compassionate, you wouldn't care that he was Israeli because you wouldn't see him as Israeli. Let's say there's a soldier that's gone to war in Israel fighting for our people, and they've gone through tremendous trauma and they're coming out. So maybe they don't want maybe they don't want an American dealing with it because maybe they want someone that's also fought in the army and also understands what it means to have that sacrifice and challenge. But so resonance can be helpful, but I wouldn't call it the only factor. A talented therapist, a talented healer, a talented rabbi or mishpia, Hashem Yerachem, should know how to be, it's Yeshua Ben Nun, know how to meet every soul with who they are and where they are. And speak to them in that resonance. And I think that's the most critical part. If for you it's a sensitive issue, then that informs, who you should be choosing for your work.
Well, I just say, like, you as a Baal Tshuva would probably be less judgmental of somebody who's, a Baal Tshuva, had crazy, upbringing or whatever,
It could be. I've also met about tshuva rabbis that are sometimes more machmir because of insecurities and they puzzle everything. So it also happens. I think, Chaisa, we have to look beyond the chitzonis to the panemius. If the person in front of you, sometimes people go to rabbis and they say, the rabbi doesn't understand me, then it doesn't understand my shilas because they're judging everybody. And sometimes people find rabbis that understand the depth in their heart. And therefore, I have a lot of people that come to me, the secular Jews, that say I would never go to a rabbi. But they feel that there's an understanding there, right? So I would look less at the externality and more about who is the neshama in front of you and do they understand you? Do you feel that they have the heart and sensitivity to understand you and include you and care for you? I think that's probably a better metric to base it on. But thank you for your question, Chaisa.
Unbelievable. Let's go to the next question. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for everything. I wanted to ask a few things. First of all, I wanna speak about what you touched a little bit regarding people that are in healing that are actually getting further away. So you touched it a little bit to say that people who are general Yerushalayim, they're gonna stay. They're not gonna get further away. On the other hand, you have people which they want to be Yerushalayim, but when they're in their trauma world, they're blocked off, let's say, both the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. And once they go open up, they all of a sudden open up to everything.
Zev, sorry, I want to understand your question. I don't understand that they've blocked off in their trauma with the Yetzer Hara. We would say that that's kulo Yetzer Hara. If they're defined by trauma or pain or darkness, that's kulo Yetzer Hara. Just to clarify the terms, right? So I understand your question correctly.
Meaning every person has both. Yeah, we have there is such thing as Yira, and it's not always the reason why you have to have Gevura and you have to have Yira is because you do have sometimes, even when a person is unblocked, he still has an other side that wants.
For sure.
Yeah. So being that a lot of people are going and all of a sudden their world is opening and they go a little bit away from the Yira part because they look at the whole Yira world, the whole Torah world as a trauma thing. So once they open up and they started going healing and they stop, a lot of them that I know personal people that stop davening 3 times a day because they all of a sudden, like, the whole davening is an unconnecting thing for them. So they do it on their own terms. And being that they're going away from the halacha world and they are connecting to, let's say, a world of feelings, a world of spirituality, and even further than that. And this is something that you touched in the beginning when you started talking.
Zev, you're saying all these interesting things. I want to respond. Is there one particular question? I want to respond to some of the things you said right now.
I'll go further to the next thing.
Let's address that. We'll get there. First of all, I want to be a little strong on this to clarify. First of all, a person suffered trauma of their life and religious trauma of their life, Aleph. And then they go to therapy, and then they go away from halacha. So the Rav bangs on the table and says therapy took them away from halacha. No. The abuse they suffered in their religious community is what took them away from halacha. Let's just be very clear on the culprit here. When you bring up somebody in an abusive, negative environment with very strong religious indoctrination, without any sense of self-awareness, and a person suffered abuse and did not get any support or love from the Kehillah, and no one listened to them, and then they go and do 3 breathwork sessions and stop davening, it's not the breathwork that sent them off. It's the 30 years of religious abuse, of emotional block.
Could be. Could be. I'm not. I'm
No, no,
not
no, no.
disagreeing.
Zev, that's 100%.
I'm not
I'm willing.
disagreeing. But
Right.
what do you?
So,
But you gotta have a
so,
strategy how to do it.
yeah,
You
I have a
don't. You don't want to.
strategy.
You don't want to take. You don't want to take a person and just open them up.
I have a strategy, but I just want to start that our axioms are very clear. Actually, that's not the psychedelic that took them off. That's not the trauma therapy that took them off. That's the abuse. Now let's understand the next level. Number one. Number two is what caused them to stop davening. So there's many different midas that we have. There's many different things that we have to mitaken within us. Some guy is feeling all his life empty and disconnected, empty, and I'm doing these things, and my nervous system is burnt out. I'm just doing, I don't know why, I'm not enjoying this, I'm not getting simcha from this, it's meaningless to me. I'm talking about countless people I've spoken to, fine. But they have a thing that if ever I would do anything or change anything, everybody would hate me. I can't go against the kahila, I can't go against it. And in the trauma therapy, the first thing that comes off is just that. I care so much what everybody thinks about me that I could never change it, even if I'm going to kill myself keeping it up. And the first midah that you mitaken is, I care what everybody thinks about me. And they have a moment that they feel Hashem loves them, and that midah is gone. And then what happens is like, wow, I don't care what everyone's looking at me, everyone's judging shidduchim, everyone's judging this. For the first time, I don't care. So suddenly, I don't have to go to a minyan. Now that's Alma de Chavis, isn't that wonderful? They're gone off the deck. They haven't gone off the deck. What they've done is taken down the first offense. And now they've got the next trauma to deal with. But I don't like this because it feels on my nervous system. I've been pushing myself to daven 3 times a day, and I hate it. I'm frustrated. I feel like a failure. I feel I can't do it. I feel I don't have the kavana. Right? So when you take off one level and there's more to do, then you see people shifting around in their avodas Hashem, the shifting around in relationship of halacha. That's not trauma therapy causing that. That's years of numb disconnection at best causing that. And part of the healing prayer, and any true mishpia knows this. Any Rav that deals with the oilam really knows this, that sometimes you say, yeah, take away that chum a little. Yes, take that down a little. Maybe stop with the Rabbeinu time on Shabbos. If you're experiencing trauma at the end of the Shabbos, there's others, madam, there's other ways to do this. You take off chumas to allow a person to adjust the trauma. Number 2. Number 3 is, now I want to say something strong. Is some rabbis may say, it's taken away their Yiras Shamayim. It's taken away their Kabbalah soil. I have to daven a minyan each day. I don't know for many Yidden that's Yiras Shamayim. I think in some places, speaking gently, what we call Yiras Shamayim is really a form of trauma. And I think there's some from Olam in certain Kehilas, especially the New York area, that start to awaken to that. The things that I thought were keeping me in the ghetto of halacha, they weren't Yiras Shamayim, and they weren't the training and the conditioning of halacha. They were trauma of judgment, trauma of people rejecting them. And because we think that's Yiras Shamayim, it suddenly unravels so fast. And it's because there's so much negative energy and darkness around it that people actually have to throw it off to actually come back to Yiras Shamayim. That I'm doing this because it's a mitzvah. I'm doing this because Hashem loves me. I'm doing this in the Daled Amos of halacha, but not because I will be hated and rejected, abandoned by my mommy and tati if I do it, but not because I'm worthless and valueless if I stop. And that creates a very unhealthy relationship for some people with halacha. And there's many chemra I've worked with the certain communities in New York that you have to take that down a little bit, and it's very precise surgery. And I understand some rabbis are very uncomfortable with it because it looks to them like you're challenging the relationship with halacha. You're taking away Yiras Shamayim. Chas v'chalila. You're taking away trauma around Yiras Shamayim. And when you soften that a little, then they can step into Yiras Shamayim should build us. It should build us simchas Hashem. Should build of Emunah. It's the context of Emunah. It's the concept of Avos Hashem. The Ava Gila Bavada. There's an integration of these things. And any Rav or Mashpia who's sensitive knows that there's some people's dedication to Chumras that is on the borderline of OCD, which comes from fear and trauma. And there's some people that the way they learn and the way they daven is not coming from Das. Chazal already talk about this. Not coming from Das. If that's the Sam Mavas, the Torah is without Das, and that the following of Chumras is without Das and Seichel, and it's because of insecurity. That's really what it is, and that creates an unhealthy relationship with halacha. And sometimes, if you take that down, the whole halacha relationship changes. But it can be the beginning of a necessary tikkun. It's Yerida L'Tzarech Aliyah. So
that could be the case, and sometimes it is the case. It is the case. Sometimes people have OCD and chemras, and sometimes
I'm
it's
not talking about literal OCD. I'm talking about following chumras because of certain insecurities they've had in their life or certain fears around it that are not from das, and that can create an unhealthy relationship with halacha. And when you take that down, there's a complex kind of navigation of how that brings them back. So what else are you saying, Zev?
and what I'm saying is that there is also a concept of people that are going into a world of everything is connecting to Hashem, loving, feeling, and they are going away from simple Yerushalayim. I'm not talking about a person that has chemris and crazy halacha chemris that he has fear. I'm talking about going into a world of taking the whole Yiddishkeit into a
Zev,
feeling, a pneumius thing.
Zev, do you hear what I'm speaking to? Do you hear what I think a pattern is there?
Mm-hmm.
Who's more likely to do that?
It could be people that are coming from a place from trauma and halacha.
So
And
let's call it din. Let's call it din.
It could also be a person. It could also come from a place where you also have desires that want to go out from your. I mean, there is such thing as yiras.
Desires of wanting to go out. That's exactly the point.
So
A person has a taiva.
so
A person has a taiva to go out, right?
Mhm.
And
Is every taiva trauma, or sometimes a taiva is a taiva.
Okay, so now we have to have more sophisticated lashon. We have to have a more sophisticated language. What's the definition of chet? I see chet and trauma and midas ra'os are all the same thing. What is trauma? And a simple definition, it's a clipper of the midah of yira. What is taiva? It's a clipper of the midah of tanug. What is attachment? It's a clipper of the midah of ava.
So let me ask you, where is Yuris Onish coming in to?
Where does Yuris Onish come from? Again, you can go through.
Where do you have to use every cipher, every Mr. Cipher, Chassidus cipher is saying you got to start with Yuris Onish. Where does it come in the trauma world?
So if we go by the Chabad Tzaddikim, they have a very sophisticated nomenclature for Yuris Onish. So let's talk about 3 levels of Yira. This is, I don't know, the deeper how people understand it. There's a Yiras Aromimus, which is a spiritual meditation experience of bittul before the divine light. That's not what we're talking about. The second is the idea of Yira, which comes from Das, which means I have a pachad to disconnect from Hashem, and I'm going to be machnia my taiva, or machnia my Yira, to not listen to my heart that wants to go after things that are wrong, because my Das and my sech will say that is not right. That's another level of Yira. And there's a third level of Yira, there's a Tzaddikim discuss, which is kind of a programming of the heart. That if I make the right decisions constantly, I can embody a sense that even on a body level, I would never go against the Ratzon Hashem. That it's not, the Tzaddikim say it's not even my das anymore. I just habituate my body that I would never go against something. So Yiras Onish, depending on the terms that you use, could be from Seichel. The taiva comes up, oh, I want to look at that. And the seichel goes, absolutely not. Because that would be betraying my connection to Hashem, number one. And there's another level of when you make that decision the right way 100 times, and the body just wouldn't allow that to come up. So that's that. Now, I define trauma and addiction as the same thing. I define attachment and lust as the same thing. They're all the 7 midas, fixating on physical things. In the same way I fixate on that food as the source of my taiva rather than Hashem, that's a problem with the midah. In the same way, my yira keeps fixating on that man that abused me when I was 4 years old. That's just a mischanneling, a co-opted channeling of a certain energy within me. So when a person wants to just pursue chesed, the first thing I say, worth exploring, is when people are in tremendous din all their life, then they get told they can experience chesed often a lot of Hasidim just want to bounce back and be in Chesed. Whether that's an ultimate goal, we don't think that's an ultimate goal. We're into Tiferes balance, but we understand why part of the healing process. Sometimes the Rambam says you go to other sides. Number one. Number two is there's people that are pursuing their tivas, exactly as you said, Zev, and suddenly they want a moira heta for everything. Everything's mutter, everything's chesed. I want to take off Kabbalah soil. I want to pursue my tivas, but really they just want to make everything mutter. But that's also midas that acting up. When you take, this is the concern, when you take off the Yerushalayim, maybe you're taking off the trauma Yerushalayim, and everything becomes mutter, and therefore you need proper hashkafas. But at the end of the day, if a person suffered pain or trauma all their life, give them the EFT, give them the IFS. Most of the time, that does not send the majority of people out running after their tivas. It usually gives them back more of their das to make smarter decisions. And usually people that blow out are the certain kind of people that had a lot of trauma. And when I call trauma, I just mean emotional repression in the kahillas they were, and it makes them much more vulnerable to blowing out. But not helping them can also make their lives much worse. It's a very complex surgery that has to be done.
Got it. And just one more thing that you touched in the beginning. You started saying regarding breath work and psychedelics in a non-Jewish setting, that you mentioned that it could be touching of a Zorah. So
psychedelics is there's a sprach in the oilam that anything that they didn't learn in yeshiva is called a vodah zarah, and that's just not true.
I'm saying what you say.
Psychedelics is mamish a matzah of me'ikra din of vodah zarah, potentially, not always, but potentially, yes.
It could be. Yeah, so I just wanted to touch that you're reading a lot of times in the from the first Hasidic Rebbe's that you see a lot of times that they themselves doubt themselves if they are from the Sitra Achra. There's a story about the Rav Tzru that went to the Rebbe from Lublin, and he said over his Torah, which I feel is like once you started touching what you call prophecy, Richa Kodesh, or any spiritual thing, and you're not fully to it, you're not fully cleaned up, then there is, and you started going up there is
Zev, this is where I disagree, and we have a nice machlokas together sometime. You ready? If you look at those svarim and you read Sharei Kedusha, this is what you hear, that when a person goes into Aliyas and they go into Devekas, they have to have the kalim. Is this from Kedusha or is this from Tuma? They don't say, never do it. What they say is, here are the concerns, and we have to become a baldas of how to navigate it. They give eitzes of how to do that. So to say, which I don't hold by the oilam that says, I'm talking about meditation now, because there's a danger, don't do it. There's a danger in not dealing with your trauma. There's a danger of living a life of Torah, being emotionally disconnected. There's a danger of not teaching these Torahs from Chassidus in the Frum Olam, because in the Frum Olam go and pack out Joe Dispenza and Landmark and Segemer. There's a danger not to bring it in. What you hear from the Siddiqim is that they learned and practiced the skill sets because they knew when you open that up, there's a chiluk that needs to be made. So that's the limud from that is not do it. The limud from that is to do it with the seichel. I'm not sure, Zev, you ever learned Gemara before, but there's one Litvisher Rav that I adore, is one of my favorite people in the world, and he gives me chizik. He likes Chassidus, he likes Sfas Emes, and he likes Shem Mishmor. And I say to him, you should learn the Tanya. He quotes things in the Tanya. He says, I have a Masorah not to learn the Tanya because unless you have a Rebbe. He always says to me, I never had a Rebbe. I was like, what do you mean a Rebbe? I'll teach it to you. There's amazing Meforshim today in the Tanya. It's like, you may get it wrong. I was like, you may get Chazal wrong. If you how could be a Poisik? If you don't do Shimush from another Rav, you're going to get all of Halakha wrong. Every time you learn the Gemara, you're going to get Chazal wrong. There's nothing that we don't have a chashash, you're not going to get it wrong, right? But our approach is, so that's why you learn in yeshiva for many years, to learn a strong derech of a limud, so that you understand how to use your seichel, so you understand how to mevara tov from ra. So Zev, even though there absolutely 100% is a concern in the psychedelic space, the healers talk about this, lahavdol, and in breath work, you talk about that, and someone that's working with you in parts work, is this a part, and is this healthy, and what do you say? There's always concern, And our response to that needs to be, now that I know there's concern, I need to develop the skill sets to make healthy distinctions from people that do breath work or psychedelics, whatever. How do you know that the message you received is accurate, is true, is helpful, is coming from the side of Kedusha, the side of Tuma? So the answer is not, well, it's a concern, so let's not do it. The answer is that's why you must work with professionals in breath work. That's why you need to go to your psychologist. It's called integration. It's not just having the high experience. It's coming back, sitting with a therapist, a guide, and saying, what do I take from that? What is good? What is true? What is healthy? What should I ignore? What is the signs of voices that are not accurate and not true? One of the answers is it aligns with Torah. If in your psychedelic breakthrough you suddenly say I have to leave Torah and there's no such thing as God and I have to leave my wife and marry the neighbor, God forbid, and you hear stories of people saying this happened, then the answer is no. Now you're hearing voices from the other side. You need to work with a professional that guides you. So 100% there's a concern, but what we learn from this forum is and Richie Meir Morgenson talks about this. What are the indicators that something is true and what it isn't? And I believe we have to teach those skill sets to people to navigate these spaces better, rather than puzzling the whole experience that people need. There's no inner work, there's no Hisbodedus, there's no trauma therapy that doesn't need a talented person to teach you how to do it in a healthy way. And that's where we're up to as a door. So
let's
something to
the
consider.
next question, okay?
Okay, sir.
You're on.
Okay, firstly, thank you so much for taking my question. It segues, I think, beautifully from the end of where we just ended off. Before I jump into my question, I just want to preface it by saying I had the privilege of joining some of your classes and workshops through Elevation. It was a masterful experience, definitely very, very transformational in lots of different areas. I also have a background in learning Pnimius HaTorah, Hasidus, through the actual
Beautiful.
sources, and have seen
Beautiful.
many other things you teach, including your focus in the Elevation series. I forgot exactly what you called the series, but very strongly about Das and Das, Belas HaDas and all of that being very strongly there, and your capacity. If I can humbly pass on acknowledgement and a compliment, your capacity to tangibilize it and make it real and actually have you tap into transformation and elevation through it is exceptional. It's something I don't
Thank
think
you.
that exists elsewhere. So okay, so I appreciate the opportunity to ask the question as well as to pick up the conversation from where it is. I'm also very nervous because these thoughts have been simmering a little bit, and it's the first time I'm actually trying to express them live. You've been inviting conversation, which I think is incredible and super humble in your email communications, but it's been a little bit hard to kind of consolidate everything and express it. But the conversations here are going exactly in the direction of where I was thinking. So I'm just kind of jumping in, and I'm taking the opportunity to express it. So I think my question is collective, personal, and then in a certain sense, collective again. So on the first level of collectiveness, so what I see around me is, yes, there's a strong desire for healing, and in a certain sense, I feel like it's a time and an age, it's an era, and like a new aura and a new light, that a new availability that opened for us, and a new ratzon and a new desire that opened, that created this. And together with this, I'm seeing you know even in the Torah world, a search for more and deeper, more connection, more consciousness, deeper connection, deeper consciousness to self, to Hashem, and the discussion with the previous questioner bumped into certain cautionary spots that I've witnessed around me in the deep, intelligent, searchers around me, where these things can kind of, shift off or veer off from their previous intention, into different, into different gray areas. And you discussed being aware of the risks, but I haven't yet heard anybody put those out clearly, as an awareness. And I think that
How would, sorry, I can't see your name. What's your name?
my first name is Chaya.
So in one sentence, how would that be put out there? What would that sound like?
In what sentence, what am I seeing? Or in one sentence, what
No,
would
what risk would you like addressed? Like what do you think is necessary?
So I guess, I guess my question is, in terms of, having observed this and, as well as, like I said, the question becomes personal as well. Um, so there were a lot of great foundations that you put out here tonight, including keeping.
Chaya, to tell us the question. Tell us the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question would be, what does somebody embarking on such a journey, what should that person be aware of? What are what are the collective factors that a person should watch out in himself?
I think the question, it's hard to answer the question because it's so general. Is this, in one sentence, is there something you feel that's should be addressed that isn't being addressed?
The answer, yeah, I do.
And what, in one sentence, what would you say that is? I can think of one. Do you want me to offer mine or
Yeah,
would you like to offer
I'm
yours?
not looking here to offer anything per
Right.
se as much as to
Let me give, I'll give you an example of where this is challenging and interesting, and it's something that could be addressed. If you've connected, I'm here on Coach Menachem to talk to more religious audience, right? Because I engage lots of different audiences. So here's something that I see coming up, and this may be interesting to Zev, who we're just having a conversation with. Maybe this is more to what he's speaking to as well. If a person has kept halacha all their life and found it meaningless at best and painful in some form, and in the depth of their being just wants a connection with Hashem. And they've been told that this is what you need to do to connect to Hashem. And then they do IFS, EFT, and suddenly feel an expansive connection. And then they do breath work and are flooded with light. And they see all these non-Jews flooded and connected with light. And they keep going back to breath. I'm not even talking about psychedelics right now, but even more so with psychedelics. Then they start to ask a question, right? They start to say, if I can experience Hashem without all this painful noise, why do I have to go back to all the details of halacha? I know many people that have asked that question. And I'll tell you another thing. At our retreats, I've had religious people come up to me many times and say, Rabbi Katz, there's so many quote unquote secular Jews in this room. I've kept halacha all my life. I've been moist nefesh in Torah and tefillah and every kind of humrah. And how is it that these secular Jews can walk in and experience Hashem and Deveikus in a way that I haven't all my life, and they're not Shomer mitzvahs? Some people are very insecure, will say, it mustn't be Deveikus. That's not true because I just follow what the Baal Shem Tov said, and that's Deveikus. It can't be true. And if it is true, then why are we keeping halacha? Because you can just do the breath work and do it. So that's an interesting question. And I think the short answer to that question is that if you understand the depth of that question, it's a bum kasha on halacha. Now, I'm a halachic Jew, don't get me wrong. But if the reason you keep halacha is it's a meaningless ritual for you, and you're emotionally disconnected from your connection to Torah and Klaisol, and then suddenly you can get a higher connection without it. So it should ask the question, why bother keep halacha? Why bother keep the chumras? And I think, I don't mean to be controversial. If you think I'm saying anything else but follow halacha here, you've misunderstood what I'm saying, okay? So don't start online with Doniel Katz not to keep halacha. I'm saying if the reasons that we keep halacha vanish instantly when we experience Deveikus, then we need to upgrade our understanding halacha to make it meaningful and relevant to that. That means here's you keeping halacha, not liking halacha with no connection. Here's you watching secular Jews experiencing Deveikus and a profound connection to Hashem. Here's you feeling, well, I don't need the halacha, and you throw it off. Good, throw off that halacha, but don't throw off halacha is what I'm saying. I'm saying it's up to us as a from community. It's up to us teachers of Torah. It's up to us, the teachers of Pneumius of Torah, to start teaching the truth about halacha, the depth of halacha, that it is so beautiful and powerful and relevant and meaningful, that it is so the path of Dveikus, as the Zohar says, it's 613 eights of how to connect to Hashem, that that's the halacha you want to teach, because you realize I can have a high experience at a retreat with Dveikus, but I can experience Dveikus all my life through keeping of halacha. If we would teach it on that level, then people would come back. So that's a question, Chaya, for me, of things that need to be addressed, and there we go. We just addressed why a person could throw things off, and in part of this process of healing, it's because it was done in a superficial way before, and now they've found direct access to the light. Does that relate to you, Chaya? Do you have another insight you'd like to hear shared? Is there another thing you think is lacking there, Chaya? Chaya is silent.
1 second, 1 second.
Yes, thank you so much for reflecting that. Firstly, responding to that, taking it down that direction. I think, I think that really walks the path that, as a religious community and a very religious community, the discussion needs to be brought. And I am in 100% agreement with what you're saying. I think one of the beautiful things about learning Sefer Hasidus from the Talmidei Baal Shem, and especially the current day compilations, is that the Baal Shem Tov opened up a very interesting path of balancing both the value for Dveikus and the value of the disconnect. The reality of the disconnect, meaning the value of the high times and the value of the low times, the value of the close times and the value of the hard times.
Yeah.
And when you read the Tanya, I mean, I think this is across the board, at least in the little bit that I've learned. But I've been exposed to a very, to a nice cross spectrum of it. But I'm a woman, and I'm not a Talmud Chacham, to say the least. So I don't want to say
There's
it.
Talmidei Chachamim that don't know the Chassidus, so don't put yourself down there. You're contributing to what we all need to hear.
But that, I think this is my own interpretation from having learned so many sources, is that one of the things that the Baal Shem Tov did that made this so accessible to everybody was that he valued both sides of the paradox as strongly. So there's I 100% agree with the idea that we need to go back and see not only the value in the halacha and what the halacha is coming and how essentially they were built to bring us to that dveikus, but also the reality of the fact that what's the value in the times when we don't feel that dveikus, and how those are, the Baal Shem Tov taught so much about that. But
I totally hear what you're saying, Chai. I kind of feel in our generation we went too far back the other way. And we
deleted it, but I feel like if I read from Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan that in a sense there was Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan has a beautiful book about prophecy and meditate. He calls it meditation in the Bible, and he did give also very, very strong reasons why all of this was kind of hidden until the Baal Shem Tov came to reveal it, and then the Baal Shem Tov came and he revealed it in such a beautiful structure. But we haven't. Sure. I sometimes say I'm Hasidish, but I reclaim my heritage, like in opening Sifrei Hasidus. But I feel like there's a very interesting discussion to be had here in where this is taking people, what the risks are, where this is taking from people, and what the answers are to those risks for very religious people, and the balance that we need to dance and open in both directions. But then the last question I have in following this.
I'm not sure cut you short, but I have like 2 other things I have to get, and it's very late.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Rabbi, just to say one quick thing, without naming names, there's a certain mahalach that came more and more into the world from an unbelievable tzaddik. It was just more and more about, even if we do things in the chetzonius way, It gives, Hashem so much nachas, which is of course a true in an emistic way. But there's a whole kihila that just said you only have to do things in a chitzonius way, and forgot to also connect to the panemius in the experience. And the Baal Shem Tov, while talking about aliyahs and yeridas, and talking about gadlus and katnus, when he talks about even if we do something in an external way, we put into tefillin with no connection or with no mindfulness at all, that itself is a tremendous miss. Of course it is, without a doubt. But the goal of that is to give chizik to when you're down. It's not to lose the focus that our goal is to try and connect deeper. When we have a whole generation of people saying just putting on tefillin in a chitzonius way is giving Hashem nachas. It's the highest level. Was never meant as the highest level. For sure, according to halacha and Torah, it's not the highest level. And mitzvah with kavanah is the highest level, and kavanah involves the lave, and kavanah involves hislavus, and devekus is the highest level. So the statement about just doing something an external way is about to give chizik, because a post-Holocaust, we're in a generation after the war, and people don't know how to connect. So even if they just do one mitzvah, that is a wonderful thing. That's a beautiful thing. But when we're telling people that that's all that is needed, it clearly isn't. And then they blow out because they're hungry and thirsty for more. So it's always beautiful to support the lowest, but we can't lose our need and our focus to constantly aim towards the highest. Not highest that's so ambitious that we can't make it, but to realize that we can enter debate because we can mitaken a midas. These people that say, a midah takes a lifetime to heal, and a person can finish all of Shas before they mitaken 1 minute. Listen, I hear what they say, and the Balei Musa spoke to this point, but in our generation, I want you to know it's not true. In our generation, there are tools and kalim that if you tell me you've been therapist for 20 years and you're still on the same block, get a new therapist, get a new therapy modality. Seriously, there are things that we can do today in Tikkun Midas, the Tzaddikim say it meforish, that you shouldn't be stuck on years on the same midah. And for some people that are, let's find a better upgrade so that you can really move through in a few months and really get a breakthrough and move forward. And you can start to get that islavus and that simcha and that ava. It's within reach. That's what Hashem wants us to know. The tools are there. We just have to step into them and integrate them. Fine. Next.
Okay, I'm gonna end with one question, and I'm gonna end with one question, and then we'll go to closing because it's late. I know there's 2 other people waiting. I'm sorry about that. Somebody sent in a question, is that they have an issue that with all the years of learning and about learning closeness to Hashem and connecting, in theory they understand it, but they don't know how to integrate it into actually when they are faced with an asayan or something that's hard for them or fear, how to really feel Hashem. In theory, they understand it, and they know Hashem takes care of them, and they know Hashem runs the world, and they understand the Bris
Exactly.
When it says b'chol levavcha, that means when you're in a situation where you have, right? Again, we're human. Obviously, if we're, somebody's attacking you, you're going to react. But we're supposed to feel like Hashem is with us, not in theory, in reality.
Rabbi Asher, that's exactly transformational Torah. This is what I'm going to say. When you come to yeshiva, you learn to learn. You learn to learn. There's a derech limud. When you have a shkafa that's not true, there's a derech of what your shkafa should be. Everybody's teaching the Torah of the seichel, but nobody's teaching the Torah of the life. How do you feel in tefillah? Here's the most astonishing thing. Having gone through many yeshivas, Bal yeshivas and not Bal yeshivas, having sent my kinderlach to many wonderful yeshivas, why does nobody teach how to daven with kavanah? Everybody teaches the chashivas of tefillah, the chashivas of davening with Kabbalah, but nobody teaches you how to pay attention. Nobody teaches you how to awaken emotion. And how do you awaken Ava? You should feel Ava's Hashem, and here's many pilpulim and the milas of Ava's Hashem. Right now, do you know how to awaken tremendous, overwhelming feeling of Ava's Hashem? Even the Rambam, the famous Hasidic master, talks about the need to feel Ava's Hashem like equal to the love for a woman. But nobody teaches us that skill set. To forget about takeaway trauma, forget about fixing broken people. The avoda shebalev is also awaken amuna. Rabbi Nachman says the ikka of amuna is in the lev. And actually, you keep saying correctly, we understand the hashkafas of amuna. I know there's a Kaddish. There's the Fum illness. How are you, Baruch Hashem? You didn't say anything about how you are, how you're feeling. I hate the world. I hate the Fum Olam. I hate my tefillah. I hate my davening. I hate my chavrusa. I'm Baruch Hashem. In my head, I'm saying the emunah vort that I know to be true, but in my heart, I don't feel it. So there's two problems here. Number one is we're not taught skill
One
sets.
second, I just want to pause for a second.
To
Then
take out the negative. And we're not taught the positive skill set to feel the thing in my heart that I know is in my head. And it's a skill set that you need to be taught. And if we don't teach in our kahillas, if we don't teach in our shivas, if we don't teach in our seminaries, then many people actually will say exactly as this mensch is saying, I'm smart, I'm a Yivish Shemaim, I know what's emes, but I don't feel it. And more than not feeling it, when you don't feel it, I feel anxiety, I feel stress, I feel pressure. How do I bring it back into my heart? And the answer is you need to learn the skill sets to clear negativity from your heart, which is not hashkafa, is not beliefs, and you need to learn the skill set to awaken positive emotion. And when you awaken positive emotion in the heart, right now, it takes out the negativity and fear. This is what we're lacking. This is the main thing we could have been taught in yeshiva, and nobody ever taught us. And this is why we're trying to reclaim that. Is that not answering what you're speaking to, Rabbi Asher?
you're saying the theories and you're saying the issues, but you're not saying the solutions.
What modality?
I mean,
what modality should we go to? You're saying we're missing something.
if you ask me, I'd say do online program, come to our retreats. If you ask an IFS person, learn how to do that. If find people teaching
That's
practical
what these modalities teach.
skill sets, that's exactly what these modalities are teaching. That's exactly the point. Summing up everything we said. Most Yidden today are taught about Amunah, and we learn the weekly Devar Torahs and the chizuk of Amunah, but it's all intellectual. And we're not taught this the skill sets of emotion. If you're asking where to learn that, so I teach retreats and seminars. We have online programs. You can come learn with us in the Elevation Project. You can find people that are doing breath work. That's what they're trying to do. They're going through a stressful point in their life of their marriage. They know HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, but they feel so anxious and stressful. So then they go to breathwork session 3 times and they take down that. And suddenly they can feel Hashem loves me. It's okay. You can do that with tapping. You can do that with healing. You can do that with devekas. You can do that with tefillah. If you want to come learn with me, come learn with me. If there's someone teaching that better for you, go learn with them. If you're asking what are the skill sets to do that, so there's many wonderful ones. You have to choose one and step into it.
Right. But the awareness is why don't our schools teach us? So we should start mindfulness, meditation in 2nd grade, 3rd. There is.
I teach it to my kids from around 6 or 7 or
They
8.
have it already in schools. I don't know about they're from schools, but they're bringing it in.
In secular schools, they do it.
Yeah.
I told you about Torah Masur and us wanting to teach them in schools, and they prefer to teach CBT. It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
But I teach this to my kids from like around 6, 7, or 8. I find that they're open enough to do this work. And then they know it's a thing. They felt Hashem's love. And they know how to calm anger or frustration and access that place. And they know when they're in a minyan where there's Kedusha, they can feel the Kedusha in the space. So that's a beautiful thing that we can do. Asher, do you want to come to a retreat? I'll give you a free ticket. I always offer this to you. You always say yes.
There you go.
Okay.
Besides, Asher and Menachem are both invited to a retreat in New York. They both can have free tickets if they want. You will have to pay for it, but they get. If you want to come and learn skill sets, it may interest you. But one of the things you see, my last line, is when the Fum Olam learns these skills, and they suddenly down with amazing Kavanah Devekas, and they suddenly take down the anxiety or stress they've had at the time. They all come with a certain look in their eye. I jokingly call it they have a shkafic breakdown. If this is from a Torah, if this is from a Surah, why were we never taught this before? Why were we never taught this existed? That's interesting. And why was I taught to push through with a moon in my head? But no one taught me, as Rabbi Nachman says, to bring that to my heart. It's not because there's a conspiracy. It's not because of patriarchy. It's just because Galus, this is what Galus is. And it's coming back now where our souls are awaking and we're bringing the Kalim home and reintegrating them. And the answer is it's not enough to have a moon in your head helps you give a good, nice shir or a devar to ensure, but it doesn't help you navigate the struggles of life. And Hashem is calling us to bring it to our heart. And this is the path that's opening to do it. And I thank you all for the opportunity to share that. And I hope it inspires anybody.
Let's go to the close.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi Doniel Katz, for coming on tonight. Very powerful share. Like you just wrapped up like all our hundreds of shiurim on every modality and therapy that we spoke here, and you put it in a very strong context. So, whoa, we're definitely gonna have to listen to it again a little bit slower, and like very powerful. Again, anybody's here the first time every Sunday night, 9 p.m. We have a beautiful shiur, beautiful programs, and we're getting into Yom Noraim, August 31st. This coming Sunday, we will not be here. Coach Menachem is making a wedding, and everybody's invited. So please join. Menachem sent out the invitation. And Menachem will see everybody September 7th with a powerful lineup for Elul, Yom Noraim, and it should be very deep and meaningful, not just in the mind, but in the heart as well. Everything is recorded on Coach Menachem, menachembernfeld.com. If you have any questions, please email coachmenachem@gmail.com. Tonight's share 242. If you want to get on the phone, it's 732-305-9011. If anybody wants to get a hold of Rabbi Katz or come to the New York thing that he's going to do and see me and Coach Menachem over there, it's going to be go to his website, Elevation Project.
They should go to ravdaniel.com. I heard. Is it Rav Doniel Katz? They can go to elevationretreat.com. Our websites are going down. Elevationretreat.com, or I think ravdanielkatz.com. That's where they'll find details.
And thank you to all the advertising sponsors, Lakewood Scoop, Ellie Nara, 5 Town Central, Chayla Kalf from JCN. And I'm going to go to the closing. I just want to say that this is happening in our world. I know it. Everybody who's in this circle knows that therapy, even in the rabbi world, is like, go speak to a therapist. Go like they even make it like that's like almost like a Torah in itself. And there's even a conversation like, where does the rabbi power begin and where does the therapist power begin? Like there seems like there's a certain disconnect. Like, oh, this you go to a therapist for. Like a rabbi you need to go speak to a therapist. You know, having a certain shalom bias issue, which is shocking because that's not Torah. So how could you, a rabbi, so we actually had conversations, which is very powerful stuff. But the point we're trying to make is that for some reason, this generation, the other generation was surviving, whatever we want to say. Maybe this is a generation of affluence, maybe there's a lot of money, maybe there's so much craziness happening. I don't have the answer, but it's a generation that everybody is seeking some type of healing and feeling and modality and psychedelic and just feeling this like deep nefesh. And they say that's such a holy generation. That's why so many kids are struggling so much. They're not interested in, they want to be so connected to Hashem, but they don't want any baloney. So they like want to touch Hashem, but like the whole religious thing they're not into. It's like the weirdest thing. So we're seeing this happening more and more, and we're feeling it, and it's like, what's going on? And everybody's asking the same question over and over the last hundreds of years. What happened to this generation? The other generation didn't have these problems. The other generation, we didn't go to therapy. The other generation, we didn't this. We just did what's right. So something is happening in this door that's very powerful. And it's not just from people, Goyim also. It's like a very like feeling and like emotional and just weird. It's not like regular, and it's bringing to higher levels. At the same time, it's bringing more craziness and more chaos because it's people want more, but they don't know what they're looking for. It's like a bunch of blind mice trying to figure it out. So I think the fact that you went through the modalities and showed that it was all a koyach of Torah, it's amazing. And we all have to tap into it, and we really have to do the soul searching. So we could try not to, and it's definitely easier not to. And a lot of people like to shut that down, for whatever reason we want to say. But it's there. It's coming out, and it's like almost like IFS and Mashiach, like everything's busting out on all angles. If you want to say, oh, Breslau guys are crazy, then all of a sudden you have the guys in 5 towns. Oh, they're a bunch of nutcases. Oh, these people are nuts. Oh, this person goes to therapy. They're trying to basically, anybody who's not exactly like a robot like you is some way bad. Like there's something wrong with them, or they're weird, or they're not feeling. They really felt kedusha from the Torah, they wouldn't need this. Like just not understanding that there's a big action, and it could be that if the Torah they had that connection with maybe a rav or a certain person or a certain mashpia that really gave them that what they needed, they would have it, right? People used to, Lubavitch had it, Lubavitch Rebbe, that they sucked everything from him. They didn't need anything. They felt with him like they were with Mashiach. They were with, and people feel that with their Rebbes, and people feel that with some of their Rebbeim. But for so many, I don't want to use the words, hundreds of thousands of people, they're like, everybody's just like looking, And then you see like people just trying to indulge in other things to fill that. So that's my takeaway. But we could run.
That was Geshmak. That was beautiful. I love
Coach
that.
Menachem.
Oh, shkoyach. Wow, thank you very much. We're all mevakshim. We all want to grow. We're all searching. And for those who are in the healing process, they should continue with a lot of siyata d'shmaya. And like we heard tonight, to bring it back, take it out of Gullus and come back. We're Ikfas the Mashiach before Mashiach comes, and this is where we are. And this is why it looks the way it looks. And this is what Hashem wants. We should get together and discuss it. And Hashem should help us heal, help us become close, help us feel, do halacha, feel halacha, live like a yid, like a embassy before Mashiach comes. Thank you very much.
Post it in the chat, and on a 1 to 10, everybody should write their comments. Everybody can see the chat now. How much they enjoyed tonight's share. And you can write like why, and Rabbi Katz could see it. We could see it. And everybody.
I'm here. I want to read. I want to hear what everyone has to
Rabbi
say.
Katz, meanwhile, we're going to give the closing to you after sitting here for 2.5 hours and I'm falling asleep because I barely slept last night. I would like to hear what your takeaways from everything.
Who are you asking me?
Yeah. What's your
I spoke for 2.5 hours. I liked your little speech was my favorite part of what you said about that judgment of everybody of all the different Gehilas and really this is a real thing. It made me realize that the final generation is actually coming back to the lowest generation. The fact that Kabbalistically, when a person reincarnates, which we all do, the part that we're mashlim, the part that we've perfected in our life ascends. And the part that we haven't perfected is what reincarnates. And then the part of that which we perfect ascends. And the part that doesn't, we reincarnate. So why is this generation so messed up with the previous generations didn't have to do it? Is because we're in the final generation and we're all the sediment that didn't get perfected yet, all now needs perfecting. And you know what I try and do as a mashpia and teacher is just hold space for where everybody's up to and all the stuff that people are dealing with and they can't share and they can't share in their communities. They can't, and they come forward. And when people are able to confront those places of disconnection honestly and authentically and openly, not only is there healing, but there's elevation in their lives that everything goes up. When you hit that place and you finally confront what wasn't confronted, everything goes up. If we can do that as individuals, if we can do that as Kehilas, if we can see that, the darkness is not something to be ashamed of. It's a path to a much greater light. The highest lights comes from the greatest darkness, as the Zohar teaches us. And I believe that this generation is so beautiful and so profound. And I believe platforms like this that you're creating here are so necessary to talk about this and to talk about the challenges. I know that's the core of why you created this platform. It's the discussions themselves which are the most transformative, that we can talk about things, we can explore things. And that allows us to reset ourselves, to celebrate the depth of Torah, the connection to Hashem, but to rewire and confront and shift that which is keeping us back. So I think this is a really important, if you agree with me or disagree with me, I think it's really precious discussion. Where can we have these discussions in the world? And I thank you, both Asha and Menachem, for the holy work you do of creating space, of holding space for conversations like this. And this is part of Devekas. We're connected to each other, we're connected to ideas, we're exploring things authentically. We're broad-minded to explore complex subjects, and we're Yiras Shamayim enough to realize, the container it needs to be in. And I think there's a lot of blessing that comes from that. You should get nachas from all the people you inspire to open up to heal in the deepest of ways.
Amen, amen.
A wonderful week, and it seems like all the messages I'm reading on this chat is like everybody's like rewiring their brain and they're like
We want more.
Yeah, we want more. All right, everybody. Good night. Thank you. Good night, Rabbi Katz. Good morning.
Good night. Thank you, River.
Good morning to you.
Back at everyone.